Whoever said I'm later than normal has not been to a lot of streams. If I was any earlier, I'd be on time. And that's just... That don't happen. We got a lot of newbies. We got some traditions here with the newbies. You know, we like to give them a good ribbon. We like to... Not like a winning ribbon. Like we get them right in the ribs. We go in on their drawings real hard. I'm just playing. I'll show my face in a second, all right? I'm taking a sip of Diet Coke. Jake, do you recommend taking crack? Which one? Guys, how the heck do you project shadows? I need to look up how to project shadows from imagination. I'm not launching a new sex toy company, by the way. These are just random scribbles from imagination I'm trying to light. I need to look it up. I might have a reason to watch Modern Day James for the first time. Not that I haven't watched him a lot before. It's just every time I have watched him, I had no idea what was going on because I sucked. What the heck is going on, everybody? They tried to cancel me. They didn't want this stream to happen. But they can't cancel me, everybody. Welcome to the Jake Don't Draw stream experience. I'm happy you're here. We're going to do some portrait streams today. Let me say hi to people in the chat. What's up, Emily and Kelly and Spirales? Spilores? Those letters don't go together. What's up, Tabarek? Hello, Inarkin. Blurpin Nice. See, that's a good name right there, Blurpin Nice. I can say all of those letters. Speaking of letters that I can say, I learned the other day that irregardless isn't a word, which kind of makes sense because it's just the word regardless with another prefix on it. It doesn't really add anything. Hello, everybody. Hello. We got a good stream here loaded up today. We're going to do some of these critiques. We had, I don't know, maybe like 30-ish submissions. Quite a few. Let me switch over. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe like 20, 22 here. Yeah, probably about 30. That's a decent turnout. I think everyone did really nice. I'll get to that in a second. Do you ever drink the paint water? Yeah, sometimes. But it's not paint water. We're not dirty acrylic painters here, brother. Okay, when you come to the Jake Don't Draw stream experience, you're a refined gentleman. Or gentle them. We don't drink acrylic water because we don't got acrylic water, right? We drink linseed oil. We drinking straight terps in here. We getting lead poisoning in here. Just kidding. I don't use lead. Imagine if you do Trump. Wow. Yeah, I would rather cut my balls off than draw any politicians. Everyone on the JDD server is so good at art. It's almost like there's a common denominator there. I mean, you know, people, you know, there's actually just like a great amount of really good people in the server, and people are improving so fast. They're really, I've seen a lot of people improve a ton since they joined the server, doing the challenges and stuff. It's really cool to see people take initiative over actually learning art. I say it every time here. It's like pretty cool to actually see people care and try in art. Guys, I don't know if you saw the comments on my new Instagram reel, man. They wanted to cancel me. I said, no, I'm going on a You Can't Cancel Me tour. The woke mob came for me. I said, no. I don't listen to the woke mob. I accidentally rage baited way too hard, I guess. But they say clickbait doesn't work, and it got fucking it's like 3.5 million on TikTok right now. I don't know why. The one time I don't try to clickbait, it just clickbaits way harder. But I'm not really too beaten up about it. Got called a few slurs in the past few days, but that's all right. The JDD army is on a strong come up. I might have like not posted any videos for like 6 months, but now we're stronger than ever. I was refining nuclear weapons during that time, and now we're ready to make strategic plays on the board. The game of chess that is life and art. Joined literally a month ago, and my art has improved more than that time in the last few years. Let's freaking go! Oh man. Yeah, they called me a glazer. Not like a thin layer of paint glazer. Not like a bounce on it crazy style glazer. I've been doing way too much digital art lately. I'm gonna show you guys some of the stuff I've been doing. I'm just gonna chat for like a couple minutes here, and then we'll start the crits, guys. And we'll try to move quick today. I say that every freaking day, but it never does. It never do move quick. I have been studying a lot lately, actually. Kind of haven't been studying a ton over the past year because I've been so busy with making content, but I've really... this was just like a sketch I did the other night while in the VC, in the Discord. It's been so hard to make content and study and keep up and all that stuff lately, but I've been really kind of broken up and struggling with having not studied in so long and feeling a little bit stagnant, even though I actually have improved a lot in the past year. There's just so much, more to go with all this stuff, and there's so much to learn. So I've been studying. I'm taking some classes on Underpaint Academy. I'm taking one right now from a Riot artist, and taking a new Ramon Hurtado class. That is a portrait thumbnail. I did make that. That is beautiful art. I was just clicking on random fucking shit. I've been doing these, different forms for imagination and stuff too. I guess I owe somebody a shout out. This is the portrait I did for my... we can make this window a little bit wider too, so that it scales better for you guys. There you go. I just have a big monitor so I don't full screen anything. We're going to finish mine. I'm not accepting any late submissions this time, guys. I'm done doing the 50 crit in one stream, 5-hour streams. Half of you guys don't submit until 4 p.m., like 2 hours after it starts. If you submit late today, you're cut off. I pulled all the submissions like an hour ago. Learn from the guy next to you, okay? Are you struggling with money? I'm doing all right. I'm not rich. Some guy joined the Discord this was a while ago. Maybe last December or something. And he was like, I bet Jake makes like 20K a month minimum off YouTube. I make like 1,500 a month off ad rev on YouTube. So I think people have like really wrong conceptions, but I'm not struggling. I'm doing okay. I wouldn't claim to struggle if I wasn't. I'm like very middle class, like not even upper middle class. Pretty much like the median wage or million, average. What was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So this is my submission for the challenge here. I'll introduce the challenge and stuff. I just wanted to shout out someone who's probably not even watching right now, but big shout out to a person named Caterpillars in my Discord, who's been helping me out with a lot of different digital techniques and showed me a lot of really cool ways to work on this stuff. I've always really struggled with digital, and I hate digital drawing, but that's something I've been wanting to improve lately. And because I'm just really inspired by, I love the classical stuff, but I'm really inspired by all the incredible artists out there in the industry who are able to make, compositions and cool narrative pieces that nobody else is really making right now, including, the fine artists. So I want to learn from them in order to be able to make bigger scale pieces with environments and figures and all that stuff. And part of that is learning the digital tool set. So big shout out to her. I've also been grinding kind of some imagination forms and stuff, trying to kind of work out in my mind how form and light works, which is cool. It just take like 30 minutes or whatever in the morning. And then I've also been taking that underpaint course too. I've been doing lots of these kind of like value separation paintings as well. Some cool stuff that I've been working on. This one I never finished. I'm gonna do the next assignment for this too soon. So I'll have that as well. Do I have any other drawings? Oh, I did this one too. All right. Read the chat here. We'll get started. Welcome in, everybody. Wanted to do something else. We got too busy. Hey, you know, it is what it is. I couldn't submit this time because I had to fly to Madagascar. You know what? We'll give you that one, my friend. Why are you so happy in the thumbnail? I'm just always happy. That's one thing they say about me. He never stops winning. She fell down while changing her clothes. Slipped in the bathtub, be like. Get that life alert on. Cool. Let me open this back up. I'll keep mine open. Let me just close out of this stuff. Oh, that's the wrong title. Whatever. All right, everybody. Listen up. Let's do this. Welcome in. This is the critique. This is the critique stream for the challenge from last week, early September. I gave you guys 2 portraits to paint or draw or to do whatever you want with. Really, it's kind of, you know, just do whatever you want. A nice jumping off point for you guys to get into art, to give you something to work on, and to have some, you know, camaraderie with other people and be inspired by other people, see the way that other people tackle challenges, and of course get some feedback from me. I do want to say, jumping off on this, I did crop these photos from a guy named, let me switch screens here, Bryce Cameron Liston. This isn't an ad or anything, but these are cropped from some of the photo sets on here. He has like a little clause where he says if you want to use this for educational purposes, feel free. He's an artist. You can pay like $4 for this Patreon, and you can get like thousands of reference photos, and he keeps putting out new ones every month, and they're actually very good. So I just like to support people that put out actually good reference photos, and he's actually an artist. Like a lot of the people that make reference photos, I mean, I'm sure they're artists, but they're not like full-time fine artists. So sometimes the lighting is like really whack, and just the priorities are not all there. You know, Studio Graffiti realize that they sell a lot more packs when they get women with breast implants. So there's been a lot of those lately, and not a whole lot of the academic reference packs, which kind of sucks. So it's really nice to find somebody that has some academic stuff, or just quality reference photos in general. BCL, good as fuck. Yeah, Bryce is a very good artist. Yeah. Jake, why are you so inconsistent on YouTube? Brother, I've been so consistent lately. I've been every 2 weeks except for the last video. That's because I fucked up the audio and I reshot the video. So that sucked. But every 2 weeks, I mean, I really can't go that much faster than that. You know, like maybe, I really can't. It takes about four days to edit those videos or so. Takes a couple days to shoot. Takes a day or two to set up, you know, and get like your script and stuff. It's a little bit over a week to make one of those videos. You guys don't know how much fucking work goes into everything. At the same time, running the Discord, I have my own website. Do this type of stuff for you guys. And I'm studying. Right, I'm trying to become a better artist. I don't want to just stagnate, teach you guys a bunch of stuff, same thing over and over again. I want to grow as an artist myself, because if I'm not growing as an artist myself, I am going to burn out on the videos and not have anything to teach, not have anything to make videos about, not have anything to talk about. There's a reason why my videos are different from a lot of the other, you know, slop on art YouTube. Because, you know, I have my own artistic voice, and that's something that needs to be really finely cultivated. It's not something that like I can just rush out. Oh, 7 months. The 6-month gap was because I built my own website with my course on it and stuff like that. And I was just studying a lot too. But yeah, that won't happen again. I'm gonna be more consistent. 2 videos is week is more than enough. Yeah, it's fine. He's not trying to get at me too hard. I gotta like make a living. I think actually one of the nice pressures, and I'll get into the crits here. Sorry, I get distracted a lot at the beginning of the stream. I think one of the nice things about like, if you're gonna become a professional artist, one of the things that helps you get really good is having some sort of like economic pressure on yourself. So if you're like a burgeoning illustrator or something, you can't spend 80 or 100 hours on like every illustration unless they're paying thousands of dollars for it. If you're just like doing commissions or whatever, you need to get like that sort of pressure, time crunch in order to do things in a certain way, a certain speed. It kind of forces you to learn to work in specific ways, develop processes to, improve your skills so you don't get hung up on the same things every time. So like having some sort of actual pressure, it's actually really nice for an artist. And it helps you really, improve overall, whether it's making YouTube videos or it's, doing anything else. It's nice to kind of have that pressure of going homeless if I don't. Otherwise, things just would, take their time. It's kind of some of the problem with being a rich kid who goes to fancy art school. You don't really develop like a lot of like working man's practices. Which can be difficult to develop after. Although those pushing too quickly into that also causes a lot of its own problems. There's some great writings about that from the 19th century that I could reference. Are people from the USA real? Yeah, mostly, most of them. Jake, where do I start if I want to do big figures? Probably little figures. Yeah, just 18 by 24 figures is always good. You can go read the guide on my website for the portrait drawing. And we have some articles on that stuff as well, halftonestudio.art. What exactly do you mean when you say professional artist? There's lots of different paths. Which one are you referring to? Yeah, artist doesn't mean anything at all, which is annoying. Generally talking about like industry people, so people who are doing like professional illustration. Normally, if you're talking about really good people, I'm talking about people who work for video game companies, people like Riot, Blizzard artists, any of the big game artists, or movie artists too, right? Like the concept artists that work on like Spider-Verse are some of the best in the world right now. The concept artists and viz devs that worked on like some of those guys worked for like Puss in Boots. I was looking at guys art who worked for both of those the other day. Those guys are genuinely some of the best artists and designers in the world, and they do some pretty cool realist stuff too. Like, let me show you guys really, really quick. Sorry to all the critique cells who are like, just get my critique over with, Jake, please. Now we're gonna look at art. This has been inspiring me lately. Let me pull it up over here. And Miss Leah Pinto. You might think this is a photograph. It is not. It's actually like a ton of like cool texture brush and stuff going on in here. These shapes are all carved out. This is a insane painting, and there's like a ton of creative, interesting edge work, like the sort of texture in here. All these cool shapes, like the design of the lights and darks is really amazing. Like, just how do you get this level of information density into this level of simplicity is probably one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And that type of thing can be seen, in like 19th century realist classical style work too. Just because this guy's like a more modern industry artist doesn't mean that that's not like fundamental skills. He worked on Puss in Boots too. Oh, this is this guy's work. I was looking at this last night. Yeah, he worked in Puss in Boots too. I don't know if you guys have seen Puss in Boots, but the art on that is insane. I mean, just look at the level of like creative choices and information density and like composition in this, the way that everything builds into this like big S shape. I mean, this is like the highest level stuff ever. The organization and shape design, it's so beautiful and so good. And all these guys worked on Spider-Verse. That's why they're so good at the cityscape stuff. Now a lot of the cityscape stuff, like maybe this, I don't know, this might be hand painted, but I know that they did use 3D a lot for these. I'm not sure if this guy did, but I know Yuki Demirs talked about that a lot in one of his classes. I haven't taken that class, just what I've heard. Leah Pinto did some amazing work too for a whole bunch of different stuff. She's just a really incredible like interior painter, and again, the sort of design decisions, the composition choices, the simplification in this. You get these cool textures, color harmonies, while still maintaining kind of these large value reads. I mean, it's just it's next level. It's next level. The only type of stuff that comes close to this level of decision making is type Eileen. Where are my fins at? Schurfbeck. There's a lot of great 19th century painters, but I was looking at this one the other day. The only type of people that the only type of people that like have this level of skill at building stuff out is I mean, it happens in other periods, but my favorite is the late 19th century. Like, you get those same type of, like, simplification of things and, like, crazy cool color choices. Like, you get the reds and blues and desaturated grays in this. Just the color choices in every section of this. You can see how many different colors and ideas, patterns, textures. They're playing with edges. The composition is really nice. Yeah, this is a Finnish woman. Kind of in that first wave of really, really good women painters from the late 19th century. And that's only because they started training women in Paris in the 60s, 70s. There was some training before that, but not that much. Kind of systemically, they started in like the 70s. I think Academy Julian opened up to women in like 72 or something, or maybe 62. Probably 72 though. 1872, that is. And then she went on later in her life and kind of got a little wacky modernist, but honestly, like the knowledge and the decision making, like I think if you want to do super cool modernist stuff, you earn it by hitting this level. You earn it. I will never critique anything like this if you're pulling stuff off early on in your life. So just really cool stuff that I've been super inspired by lately, and it's a great crossover between the 19th century historical stuff and drawing. Between the 19th century historical stuff and the modern kind of conceptual artists. Put F in front of artist. Fartist. Fuck. It's just dark humor. It's just dark humor, guys. Don't be offended. What city is that? It's probably New York City. I don't know. Sometimes I doubt if I have the patience to do stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, man, I look at fuck, dude. It's so easy to stun lock me. What's your name? Tatiana Kuprianova. I missed a few letters in there. Tatiana Kuprianova. She's an incredible artist who's been in the industry for maybe like close to a decade now, I think. And just when I look at like the work of people doing stuff like this, I just look at stuff like this and I'm like, damn, I've never tried a day in my life. Like, I don't think I've ever tried this hard at something. And she just does this like over and over and over again. And, I really want to push myself into that category. Want to learn from people that are actually doing stuff like this instead of people that are just like really good at rendering portraits. I make the most incredible conceptual ideas about form and flattening of color space visualization on color harmonization type shit. Sorry, I'm going crazy with my mouse. So nice. The color choices here, the composition. I actually remember her saying that she reworked this one over and over and over again for like on and off, of course, for several years before she was happy with this. So kind of nice to see. She made this in her course for with Craig Mullins. She took the underpaint class with Craig Mullins and made this in that course. Really, really cool stuff. Great composition, great color, story, building actual narrative and meaning into ideas instead of just making stuff just to make stuff. Someone in my Discord asked, do you normally make art and then jam a meaning into it first? Or do you have a meaning and then make art of it. It's like art is always, always, always made to express a meaning, right? That's the purpose of art. If you're just trying to jam a meaning into art, it's never going to work. Our art makes me want to kill myself. Let's fucking drink. Let's a JDD Kool-Aid party. Let's go. Yeah, the different sorts of brushes and stuff has been really inspiring, and it's a lot of what I was experimenting with on this. You know, I'm using different brushes, selection tools. My first time using smudge tool on this. I'm using some filters too. I use some motion blur filters to get effects like this, along with selections. I really, really, really like, actually, the area that I spent the least amount of time on that looks the best in this is by far this. I think the face on mine is very overworked. And it's just not as simple as it could be. It just looks a little plasticky, and you know, you're never going to get the proportions right if you're going back and forth too much. But an area that I didn't spend a lot of time on that came out really well is this really nice mix of like soft and hard edges. Yeah, it works there, and I wish I could get kind of that look all over, but on the next one I will. Can propaganda be art? Propaganda has a purpose, doesn't it? Anything can be art. All right, I'm not going to be that guy. anything can be art. I'm not going to make that argument. You do whatever the fuck you guys want. If you want to, you can do poop art if you want. All right, I'm cool with that. Thoughts on? All right, wait. Are you the guy? We gotta. Yeah, you can't ask 3 weird political questions in a row, man. You guys gotta stop. Why would you ever want to hear about politics from me, man? I'm an idiot. You guys gotta just go read a newspaper, all right? You remember those? Not newsprint, newspapers. All art is propaganda? Sure. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. All right, let's get into the critiques, everybody. We're going to go, you know, I threw all the ones that were on there into this. I kind of ranked them. Not really. I just kind of mind mapped them onto there about some general ideas. So don't be like, oh, mine is so good. Why did he put me next to that trash? First of all, you're probably not as good as you think you are if you have that comment in your mind, but hopefully you don't have such a negative comment in your mind. Everyone here did really nice, and a few people said they're new to the channel. It was their first time even drawing a portrait. I think that's freaking awesome. Yeah, it's super fun. There's so much that you can learn through this stuff. I'm really happy to have people trying stuff out and you know, experimenting. So that is really cool. Thank you for being here. So we'll kind of go from some of the more fundamental beginner things to the more complex stuff. Talk a little bit about drawing here first. Last night, my feed served me a guy making paintings with his pee. See, that's someone who has a good feed, right? That's a good cultivated Instagram feed. You got to avoid the rage bait, the goon bait. You have to use your brain, scroll past it, and cultivate a sense of authenticity, something strange, something unusual. All right, if you have the strength to do that, then you have the strength to do anything. Here are the 2 crops of pictures I took from for this challenge. So we have one that's a little bit more dead on, and then we have this over the shoulder one. I think this one is more dramatic. This one's more like expressive. You know, has like a lot of very strong, kind of this strong gaze, this very beautiful look, this kind of feeling of like indifference. Maybe like Athena comes to mind for this, right? Maybe powerful. This one is a lot more, I think, like earnest and sincere. You get less of these like hard. Oops, let me get onto the top layer here. You get less of these hard light and dark separation shapes that you can kind of clutch onto. This one, you're all in halftone pretty much, except for this shadow shape here. So you have a lot less kind of big shadows to grasp onto for proportions, which can be a lot more difficult. But this is a tough tilt too. Neither are easier than each other. They just have different challenges. I'm drawn to stuff that has flatter lighting, that I feel like has more even lighting. I think it is harder to render, but the chance to get somebody's like more authentic character through it, that's always something that attracts me. But a lot of people go for the more expressive stuff too, and I certainly do from time to time as well. So that's why I chose this one. But you can do whatever you want. Jake, don't mess up your layers. I'm gonna rage at my layers in about 2 hours. About hour 45, I'll probably be yelling at all my layers being messed up. What's up, Canvas Engineer? All right, let's go with this one. I think this person said it was... Oh, fuck you, Discord. Photoshop. Photoshop immediately stops working. Let's see if it works on this reboot. Let's see if I have to close the whole program. Okay, cool. Buggiest program known to man, dude. If you guys are wondering which digital program you should use because you just came here, you're new here, probably Krita. Maybe Clip Studio Paint. I don't have too much experience with it because you can get on sale though. That's for pretty cheap. But probably Krita. Krita is free, open source. It basically just tries to clone Photoshop. I think you can probably use Photoshop brushes in it. So you can definitely do anything in Krita. I've just used Photoshop for a very long time. So yeah, I've used Photoshop since middle school, and I do some professional tasks, and I do photo editing for making thumbnails and stuff like that. So there's some stuff I like in Photoshop. But fuck Adobe. Adobe is the absolute worst. They're the demon. Okay, you can use Photoshop brushes in Krita. That's sick. Very cool. All right, this person said it was their first time doing a portrait, which I think is super cool. Thanks for joining us. It was this one. Let's talk about some things that we like to think about, some ways that we like to address portraits, some ways that we can gain accuracy. I think that one thing I'm going to say for a couple of you guys is, when you make lines, you don't have to be like, I'm going to start here, I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to do this on every line and try to get it perfect. But some level of maybe knowing where you're going to go and where you're going to stop. Actually, these lines don't look bad at all. But in areas like the hair, you're just never going to capture... You're never going to capture all the individual strands of hair, right? There's which one of you guys calls me bald a lot? You're probably on the men's balding advice subreddit. How many hairs are on a human head? There's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, right? It's not possible. So even the best artists in the world would fail at that challenge. So the way that we tackle that is to just not do that challenge, right? The way that we approach things is we break things into different shapes, right? From the biggest shapes that we can verify the accuracy of pretty easily. It's very easy to compare the width of something to the height of something when it's like a pretty simple square shape like this. You could even do, like a triangle or whatever. Any way that you can kind of break stuff down into the biggest shapes possible. That's going to make your life a lot easier. And then once those shapes start to gain accuracy, we place smaller shapes inside of them, smaller shapes inside of them. Not everything is shapes, though. Some things are three-dimensional, right? Everything is three-dimensional, most everything that we look at. So there's a blend of that. But I think for someone who is just starting out, focusing on, trying to simplify things into big angles, right? So let's mark the top and the bottom. Let's say, we'll put it where you did. That's where we want the top of our head and the bottom, let's say bottom of our chin. And then I can see if we look just like straight up and down below that, the hair goes a little bit lower. So let's drop the hair a little bit lower here. Right, so like one thing immediately that I can see on yours is like the chin here is equal with the hairline. So just by starting like that and just thinking about these pure big basic shapes and measurements, that immediately is going to start and get some accuracy for you. And then like, what's the biggest shape we can do? Well, there's kind of this flat shape on top. So we'll put flat shape on top, kind of curves up a little bit to the side, comes down a little bit, down and out a little bit. Might be running off of the sketchbook a little bit here. Oops, I went to the wrong line. Comes like this. This side connects to this side. If I look, flat across, right? This side's like a little bit higher up on the right, so maybe we'll just go like this. A little bit brighter color. All right. If I just do this, any colorblind? Yeah, probably colorblind. People are coping and seething. I just don't like to use pure red because it kind of, or like super bright red, because it doesn't like integrate into the drawing. If I'm drawing a little bit darker, then I can kind of like integrate into it. When I'm just doing red line over it, I can never really like make it look like part of the drawing. It just always looks like a diagram. So I don't know, whatever. So here to here, right? So right away, we're going to see like this is probably a much more accurate shape. I kind of like this like curve that comes in too. That's nice. It's generally better to keep things straight too, because it's much easier to see the straight angle of something and compare two straight lines, right? This, if I told you you have to copy this line, then you just trying to go like, all right, that's pretty good actually. I might just be crazy. I'm kind of cracked. Not bad. You're probably not going to get that close. It's impossible pretty much to get it perfect. So what you can do is say like, okay, well the line has like a start and an end like at this angle. Sorry, end at this angle. Right. It has the deepest point, you know, not quite halfway. So maybe you're like right here. And it's probably about like this wide. And then it kind of starts to curve in. So you could either just make straight lines like this, and then later on loft a curve. Or you could kind of just notate that in your mind, or put down a quick reference. It's not even going to be as good as that first one I drew. Yeah, maybe something like that, right? It allows you to break things down a little bit easier. Much, much easier to start with something like this. And then later on, you can kind of just soothe that curve over, tap it with your eraser. Generally your early lines are a little bit lighter than others. So that is some big shape ideas. And the way that we can control our line. That neck connects a little bit lower, so we'll put the neck right here. I know I'm kind of going off of your original proportions. Kind of hard to make it on the same scale. In general, too, drawing things as big as possible, always good for beginners. This is where we said the chin is going to go. So the chin kind of has this tilt to it, right? And then from there, we have this shape for the face. And this is like a shape that you're going to see on every face. It's kind of diamond shape. It looks like your cheekbones are like reasonably well placed here. We have like, it's really easy to get deceived about how much hair is in something. So like, we'll just do this. Boom. Maybe those cheekbones lined up a little bit higher. And you could throw a center line on the face too, just to get that tilt. You can look for the angle of that center line. And then you'd look for the angles across. And I'll probably move on to somebody else to explain this stuff. Just so I don't spend too long. But that's going to really help you set up those big initial proportions. You can kind of keep in mind too, you don't got to be so stiff about it. You're always going to be, as a beginner, too stiff on everything. It's probably a little bit too far out. Maybe like this, yeah. You're always going to be too stiff as a beginner when you're learning this stuff. But really, you can think of it like a cartoon character or something like that, like a caricature. All right, and that's going to be a better base to work on. Very good, very good, very good. I don't want to handle these layers. G, hide. Cool, we'll just hide everybody. Same thing with you, my friend. Same thing. Looks like you have some of that kind of construction stuff going on. Maybe you looked at some Loomis method tutorials or something. And that's nice. But paying attention just first to setting up those big shapes is going to be really important for like nailing those big shape relationships, those big kind of characteristic feelings of the model. That's how you get things to feel. I understand that there are form ideas and like you do need to construct things. But it's really pretty tough to construct something perfectly from like, pure constructive drawing and get it to look like them I think people that draw this way, there are plenty of people who are able to do it. People who draw this way, and I'm being extremely messy right now. There would be like an ear in here. You know, they tend to get decent form ideas, but they really do struggle a lot to actually get it to look like the model, pretty much. And this isn't the right tilt. It would actually be tilted back more. And that's just because you can't juggle a million things at once, right? It's like the same issue as trying to draw every strand of hair. You use the cutout filter in Filter Gallery. Wait, I want to try that. Filter Gallery. I'll show you guys another cool filter trick. Where's cutout? Distort. Torn edges. I don't see cutout. I'm on an older version of Photoshop, so I might not have it. There is a cool filter trick. I know you guys can't see this. If you use in Photoshop, and I'm sure there's other versions of this, if you use the cross-hash filter and you turn up the length a lot, Ramon Hurtado showed me this one. He calls it painter vision, which I like. So it's nice to kind of put this maybe on your reference. I wouldn't kind of do this for every portrait, but it's like a nice way to conceptualize and think about things. If you put a filter like this on there, it helps you kind of group things together, look for like the big masses and the big shapes, and it's much easier to paint something like this than it is, you know, not to paint something with all that detail. Someone said it's the first one. I might just not have it. It's fine. So without getting too distracted here, I'll draw on this layer. Hopefully there's nothing else on it. If you're trying to draw every strand of hair, just like the last person, it's just too hard to manage, right? Like, nobody is that good. If you're trying to construct the hell out of everything and like be like, okay, in order to draw a portrait, first I need to learn how to draw a box. I need to rotate 250 boxes on drawbox.com. And then after I'm done rotating 250 boxes on drawbox.com, then I need to do the dynamic sketching workbook by Peter Hahn. And then maybe I'll be able to unlock the power to do a portrait. Okay, so this head is tilting like this, and then this perspective isn't even right. It needs to be more like this, and you get more foreshortening. And then you know, you have to map out your thirds, and then you try to like cut into this and make it organic. It's just like, these are like ways that we use to describe things. They're not like meant to be the way that we actually create art. And they're like helpful exercises to run through sometimes. But again, like, it's not, you know, that's not supposed to be the doctrine that we live by. So combining, you know, these ideas together, and the same thing I said to the last person with building out our big shapes first. Since we have a lot of people here too, and I didn't link it the first time, the reference photos are from this dude. Not an ad. They're just nice. I put it in the chat. Привет. Build out those big shapes. You know, kind of lock in your big shape for the face. Like I said, that diamond shape, very nice, very helpful. Especially, it's like pretty characteristic, right? Everyone's gonna have big, different face characteristic shapes that kind of define them as a person, right? You might see some people, I think like Loomis has an example in his book. You might see some people that look like this, right? Maybe even their nose is square, their eyes are square, their mouth is very square. This guy, if you look at this guy, like, what do you think of him, right? You think he's like strong, he's a brute, he's an enforcer, he's kind of like maybe a meathead, right? I didn't tell you anything about him, but already we have like all these assumptions off of somebody based off of like just the shape language of their head. It's like in my You Suck at Drawing Portraits video, right? If I tell you to draw a white guy who's 5'7", he's got brown hair and blue eyes, what the hell are you supposed to draw, right? I guess it would be me, right? But that could be literally anybody. But if you said, I see a woman with a head strong like Moldovan pumpkin and hair like a sunset, all of a sudden, that's something that means something to you, and there is a certain language that's employed in that. Right? Right. All right. I'm taking the stun lock. I'm taking the stun lock. Filter, gallery, artistic. Filter, gallery. Oh, artistic. I missed this. Cutout. Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. Here, I know you guys can't see this, but yeah. It basically does the same thing, maybe a little bit better as the posterized filter. That's what the posterized filter does. But maybe a little bit better without kind of fucking up the colors quite so much. As far as building out those form ideas, really pay attention to your angles. Like, yeah, do we have some kind of curvature as this line goes over this face? Yes, but it's like this line is much closer to straight than this line is. And as soon as you mess up that center line, everything kind of starts to slant off axis. So I'd say when you set this stuff up, be easy on yourself, be nice to yourself. Set up, a mostly straight line. Start to build out this stuff a little bit simpler. And think about, is it possible for the mouth to be this close to the chin, right? Do we have, on our reference here, we get kind of this nice chin line, and then we have like this nice shape that forms under it. We can connect from the center point here. It's our center point of our chin. We get this nice shape here, which fits into that bottom third. We come up, connect to the one side of the mouth, and connect over here. And we know that arc across the mouth is going to be the same arc that goes across all sides of our face. So it's going to move maybe a little bit more like this. We're going to come up with that center line, hit the middle of our nose. Our nose is going to come out, but let's keep it nice and simple. Let's not add our nostrils or anything. Let's just keep that width on there. Pull the sides out. Like, I think you're pretty close on this stuff, but this also one thing too that I'll say as I move on to the next person is draw bigger. Like you're giving yourself like a 480p file resolution basically, right? You're giving yourself like this tiny space to work with. And the difference between you getting that center line right and you getting that center line horribly wrong might be like 5 millimeters, right? I don't trust myself a lot of the time to be like millimeter accurate. Like a good artist, I can probably do some pretty decently accurate stuff. A very good artist definitely can be, millimeter accurate consistently. But you shouldn't trust yourself to be that. So like drawing bigger, if you have this much space instead, what the hell is this square? Why did I do it like that? To put it in perspective. If you have this much space instead of this much space, then the difference between this being right and this being wrong is all this extra space here. It's very easy to spot. It's very easy to look at, right? So, use up your whole sketchbook page. Also at the end of the day, I keep saying also, I have just one more bit. I have one more thing to add on until I complete all of art. So I'm just going to run this tangent for the next 5 hours until we've gone through all of art theory. You have a piece of paper here, right? Like, you're not just drawing a little portrait. You're not doing like this and then this and blah, and then there's a shoulder and a shoulder. I saw in an anime tutorial that shoulders are balls. And then we do this and we do this, right? Like, you might draw a portrait like this and maybe you could even get it to look really nice. But at the end of the day, you haven't made a piece of art, right? Because the piece of art has to engage the borders that it's in, the page that it's on. If this were sitting on a gallery wall, a lot of people might lean in and go, "Oh, that's a nice little sketch." But they're not going to be taken aback that it's a beautiful piece of art, right? You have to compose it. You have to make it fit on the page and fit pleasingly on the page. So we should use up the whole page. Gonna go like this. Our neck's gonna come down and connect. We get our little diamond shape that I pointed out earlier. Maybe we'll take this in a little bit tighter. A little bit too much. There we go. This is a better piece of art. No matter how much you finish this This is interestingly designed. It fits on the page. There's like this nice read of shapes and ideas going on. Photoshop has frozen on me again, which is super awesome, super mega cool, sick. I love Adobe. Please. I think they should charge more, to be honest. So pay attention to that stuff, right? Make art, not just portraits. And you're going to be able to, just through practicing the same skills that you're doing when you're doing this, you're giving yourself more tolerance so that you can do better. But you're also practicing your ability to build images. That way when somebody says, well, I want a beautiful portrait of my cat, you're not like, okay, yeah, here you go. I hope you like it. No, you're like, here's one paw like this. And then there's a big kitty like this. And this is coming out. Shit, I don't know how to draw cats, man. And the cat's curving around, and there's a cool compositional element of the tail popping up here, and there's another little paw like this, right? One more paw here. Maybe it's got its own tail in its paw, and then it has a nose and eyeballs for some reason. Right? Now you've made them a piece of art that they're going to love and they're going to cherish and they're going to think is cool. Didn't you mention the Academy that would say not to leave the figure hanged on the page and framed badly? Oh, the Pendu. Yeah, that's nice. I forgot about that quote, actually. That's really a nice quote. I'll just hide all this shit. Hide all my layers. I'm just calling my layers the shit, not the art. Yeah, you don't want to like hang your person on the page. It's even better than Jake Horse. That was a nice little kitty thing. The anatomy might have been broken, but it was at least interesting looking. Horse was just horrible. Also, it had I just forgot I put a nose on it. Never mind. As someone who draws a ton of cats, that cat's face make me laugh. Some cats look like that, all right? Don't be mean. Yeah, it's like how they used to draw dolphins in the Renaissance. Or like it comes out of the water, and that's all I remember. How do you, yeah, here we go. Nobody said that the dolphins didn't have ears. And they have fins, too. Basking out of the water. Beautiful. How did you learn art, especially figure drawing? Did you go to school or read books? I didn't go to any art schools. I did study for one summer in Italy, but it was with a Russian teacher, actually. But it was based off of... I got the scholarship to be able to do that because I had studied some figure drawing stuff, and I got very lucky. I met the right people at the right time. But I studied all online. I didn't study at any schools. I studied with Ramon Hurtado. Ramon is the guy that I made a course with. You guys can check out halftonestudio.art. www.halftonestudio.art. It's the best site in the world. We have free articles and a free guide that I wrote on there on how to draw a portrait. Oh, .art. And we have some articles about French academic drawing and stuff like that, the type of stuff that I've drawn. Or the way that I learned how to draw. I'm going to just zoom through these next two, probably. And we'll talk about kind of some more specific facial construction stuff on these, because I think these guys can use it. This looks nice. I think with you, this person I want to talk about, it is nice to know kind of roughly where you're going to start and stop, right? You can be loose and be free, and not every line has to be perfect. I think like trying to think that way can just create too much stiffness and things go wrong. But again, like when you have that frame, trying to set up like your big shapes, that sort of like shape language, it comes a lot from the way that we draw, the way that we feel and express ourselves while we're doing it. It kind of subconsciously works its way into the portrait a lot. And if we do this the whole time, it feels very unconfident. It feels very scratchy. It feels very nervous. And I think it doesn't set yourself up for the best, sort of language to be speaking, right? It's kind of like if I was saying, and I do this all the time, so it's something I want to improve. If I talk to, I guess, I don't know, like this, I guess, all the time, right? Like, it just wouldn't be a very good way to convey myself. That's kind of what, scratching too much on the paper feels like. Here's my paper again. It's a little bit fat. Maybe a little bit more. Whereas if I'm like, this is a portrait. It's a beautiful expression of the soul. The portrait starts by working on our big shapes, and then we distill things down into what's, most essential, right? We start to develop a more beautiful shape language that's going to help us out a lot more, and then from here we can kind of check our length to our width just by looking at it. We can also hold out our pencil and our thumb. You can Google comparative measurement. Proko has a good video on types of measurement. Actually, that's a Proko video I like. I don't remember what it's called, but if you Google Proko comparative measurement, there's 7 ways to measure in a drawing or something like that. It's a good one. And you can, from this stage, kind of lean back, think, are these shapes too wide, too tall? Are they kind of characteristic of the model, right? If we have a bunch of triangles and the model's not feeling very triangular, then it just looks a little bit weird. So it's a nice way to start. And then, the hair has a frayed bottom, but more than the hair having individual hairs, the hair is a mass, right? As soon as we back up to here, we don't really see any frayed hair. We see maybe a couple clumps. And that's kind of what painting is there's a few ways that you can paint. But generally the one that I'm going to always recommend is that we paint kind of peeling back the fog, right? The fog parts. So at first we have somewhat of an idea of what we're seeing, maybe a very loose silhouette. Maybe a very loose silhouette. And then as that fog comes back, we start to find those more specific shapes within that silhouette. I'm not fitting this inside. I made the head too big. But if you make the head too big, it doesn't fit inside. It's easy to deal with if you're working kind of big to small, right? It's not, I lose nothing now by fixing these proportions, by erasing stuff, by working on those big shapes. If I get super into it and I lay down 1,000 lines, then I feel a lot of pain having to go back and erase and fix stuff. It just doesn't, most people just skip fixing stuff at that point, right? And further you get into the drawing, kind of the more crispness you see, but the first ideas that present them to ourselves are the large silhouette, the large masses of lights and shadows, the large shape language, right? And only when we get down to the tiny details do we see this, right? So I don't want to see any kind of frayed edges on here until you have everything locked in pretty accurately, right? And then if you really want to do frayed edges on here, well, then you've earned that level of detail. But unless the entire point of what you want to show about this portrait is that she has, split ends on her hair, it's mad disrespectful of you, by the way, then it's just not as important, as locking in the actual focal points that we want to show. And even then, by the way, I just think it would be bad design to have a bunch of little lines that come out like this. It wouldn't really be pretty unless our whole, again, we needed to make a painting about split ends or something, right? Maybe we're working for some sort of a beauty salon, in which case art is something that serves its purpose, and maybe that is a decision there that would serve its purpose, right? But what I would do is I would kind of design these into little chunks. Maybe this one would be more square. This one kind of cuts around. Kind of, I didn't like how those were the same size, so I would maybe pull this out like this, and then we get maybe one like that. And then maybe one like that. And maybe that's kind of interesting. I don't know. It still probably is just too much noise. But I would try to think about how we can design things, break them into chunks, right? Very good, very good. Will you try Rebel? I've tried Rebel like once. I haven't really tried it though. I've used it once and then I tried to just use it like Photoshop. I'm kind of not super into the real traditional simulation on digital. It might be nice to mess with. I would want it in a program that has tons of digital stuff too, and then you could just use it like cool digital brushes. But I think digital has its own strengths and weaknesses that are different from traditional, and I think just trying to simulate traditional, it's just never going to be as good. And it's just better to just play to the strengths rather than always fight against digital. That's my new philosophy. Yeah, the warm light's really nice, and that's something that I did in the end kind of play up on mine as a design decision. This is actually a magic wand selection tool, and I turn the tolerance down a lot so you get kind of these weird noise patterns. And then sometimes I'll apply filters or feather out those edges or whatever, and then I paint some of that in. And I also did that with like a slightly softer, mid-tone orangey color here, so you get kind of the direct highlights coming, and then this would be like halation on a photo. It's probably played up a little bit too much. I could kind of take this and then throw some of this into here, throw some soft pressure. And kind of play it down maybe a little bit more. And I think that would look a little bit nicer. But yeah, you guys get the point. Just kind of a design decision you can think of when you start getting the proportions more right. Start to think about those things. But they're kind of, it's always nice to think of design, right? You can always be working, it's like color, right? You don't have to be good at drawing to become better at color. But it sure helps to kind of progress everything evenly. Do you do commissions? Not really, no. Just it takes a lot of time. I don't have any time. And I'm really only good at like hyperfixating on things that I'm interested in. I'm really bad at doing things for other people. So that's why I like YouTube, because I can kind of just do things that I think are cool for the most part. What's the difference between fine art and illustration? I don't know. Maybe illustration's more like a commercial project. Fine art, you're going to be... I mean, people in galleries they get pinholed into only making one thing too. So I don't know. Not 100% sure. Generally, I think illustration would be you're doing work commissioned from commercial projects, whereas fine art, you'd be making something that kind of expresses your own self or your own artistic ideas or some artistic idea and then selling that to other people. Give us a teaser for the next video is going to be? Actually, yeah, I will, because it's funny. I just shot the intro yesterday. I'm going to shoot the rest of it tomorrow. Hopefully. That's it. That's all I'm giving you guys. Yo, thanks, Juno. That's a nice thing to say. It's really cool that short's got out to a whole lot of people. The mob won't try to cancel me. All right. Yeah, there's a whole influx of new people coming here. I'm really happy to kind of be back to posting consistently and cultivating and just building up the community. It's really cool, and I'm really grateful to even have 30 people every 2 weeks that will kind of do these challenges just for the sake of getting better. It's I don't make any money doing these streams. I just do them because I really like to see everyone in my community improving, getting better. It's really cool, and so many of you guys have showed that. What do I want to say about this? This is nice, actually. This is nice. I think the drawing here is like pretty good. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about some construction stuff. let's see. Talk about some construction stuff here. Do you consider Jackson Pollock and the banana artist to be art? Listen, I mean, art can be whatever you want. If I've gone through the phases of being like, no, you know, that's stupid. It's not skill based. Anyone can do that. If you want to get down to a philosophical level, you know, whatever can be art. I don't care. Anything can be art. It's just like you're never going to be able to define art philosophically. It's just like a losing battle. So I'm fine with Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock's more interesting than a lot of other stuff, at least. And it was at least interesting when he did it too. You know, what I will say isn't art is the white boys with fluffy brown hair on Instagram slowly turning around their Basquiat copies for Instagram Reels. Yeah, that's what I will say isn't art. Anything else is art. Yeah, I'm not. Anyone could do that, but they didn't, though. That's exactly the point that I just said. I wasn't making that argument. You know, again, like, and if you want to like chase these ideas down, like, then you have to go to like, well, what is it good? Well, what is good? What is the purpose of art? What's the value of art? I think I would define anything as art as something. I would define good in art as something that meets its purpose, right? And so if something meets its purpose, then it's good, right? Like when you have compositions, sometimes you can do very discordant, non-pleasing things that don't traditionally fit the rules of art, but because they are specific to your composition, they're, or you know, the purpose of what you want to make your painting about, then that's fine. You know, like I said, if you want to zoom in on making the focal point of this painting, the tiny little hairs and the split ends on the end of her hair, that's probably not going to be a beautiful design decision for just the portrait itself. But if you're trying to make an advertisement for a shampoo company that fixes split ends, then maybe having the whole portrait soft and a strong focal point just on kind of that hair would give the idea out that, oh, hey, people are seeing how beautiful you are, but they're only focusing on this flaw and you can fix it with our shampoo. That would be good art, good composition, because it serves that purpose, even though I would say that it's generally a bad design decision to make a beautiful piece of art, right? So, you know, if you want to get into those ideas, we can get into, I'm not going to argue this shit all day, but it's a lot more complicated than just being like, oh, I'm good at art. I do the fundamentals and other people don't. You know, I've been there. I was 20 years old too. You know, this shit's complicated and it goes really, really, really deep. We can have a discussion on whether math is real or a human construct too, right? I learned just training your eyes to see values, not limbs, fingers, and such. Yeah, sure. Art philosophy is an endless rabbit hole. Yeah, and I'm not really a philosopher, guys. I'm more like Diogenes. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I think you did some nice job here with kind of like grouping values. Like you avoided a lot of the traps that the other drawings that I did fit into, right? You're obviously looking for shapes, for masses of lights and darks and separating them. I think maybe there's a lot of areas that you're looking for shapes a little bit too hard, right? So again, like it's all about making things simple for us. So the same advice that I gave to the last people and I'll give to people all the way at the end is kind of look for those big angles, right? Look for these kind of shapes here. Don't get distracted from this stuff. We want to have that same sort of shape language, not get too separated, right? And once we say like, okay, this comes down a little bit lower, we'll say that, yeah, it comes to here. Maybe I'm like a little bit long. I'll move mine up a little bit. Yeah, say that's where the hair ends, right? Well, now we have, you know, this gap too. And look, we have our neck starts here and it ends here. Like you do kind of have like everything kind of 70%, 80%. But it's lacking, I think, a lot of the rhythms that tie things together. So, like, I think this kind of pulls back a little bit more. This has, like, a little bit more flow to it. It has a little bit more of the shape to it, right? This kind of curves in and over a bit more, curves in and over a little bit more. We have this angle. Let's see if you got this angle right. Yeah, I'd say so. there's a problem here that I'm gonna talk about in a second. You know, we get this like flow here, and then look, like it stops and it splits down. Where like you have this, but it's a little bit weaker, right? We can kind of choose where to stop and start this stuff. Pull it out, find where things, don't be afraid to turn something into a straight line. It kind of flows out a little bit where that's where like the bicep muscles are coming out. And then like you are identifying the shapes of lights and darks correctly, but you're starting to get like a little bit too confused in some of these areas. So you're doing a lot of things that I think I just corrected last people on, which is really good. But I think you're letting it overwhelm you a little bit, which is perfectly natural, and it happens to everyone, right? We're like, so like this is probably kind of like a massive shadow. Let me take off some of this visual noise, right? This is like a massive shadow here. There's obviously a massive shadow that goes like this. There are lights in the hair, but if we squint our eyes, you know, basically even the light on the hair is darker than the whole, you know, light mass of the face and even some of the halftones in the skin. So I think at first we can kind of just worry about massing all of this, right? There's some areas where you're like, oh, but this is darker too, and it's like turning away from, this is the like the other side of this box, and there's darkness here and there's darkness here, and then like, oh, this is a little bit soft and it kind of trails out here and it starts to capture into here, and oh wait, look, it looks like, you know, this kind of merges into here, and then I think these shapes start to get a little bit too confused, and they just, all of a sudden this feels very kind of broken, and you don't know whether something is light and shadow. And that's, you know, like I said, perfectly natural. I do that all the time. It happens on a smaller scale because I've, you know, been drawing for a while now, but I do that all the time. It's never something that you just like fix, right? None of the stuff is stuff that you fix. I'm still searching for those big shapes, the big simplifications. When I finish a portrait, I always lean back and go, damn, like, I missed that. There's a better gesture here. There's like a better way that the form shows itself, that the light hits the face. There's like a bigger shape here. There's a better form idea here, right? So I would focus a little bit harder. Let me, let me just paint over. I've been really liking, oh, they're in the different place. Slabaya Tech Citria. I don't know, man. I fucking suck at reading Cyrillic. So I would just focus a little bit more when you start. And I know that this kind of local value is too light for her skin tone, but I'm just going to separate kind of the hard lights and shadows here. Let's focus on just kind of separating out those big lights and shadows first to look for the contrast. Try to keep this stuff a little bit more angular. It's going to describe the form a lot better. When you get too rounded, stuff kind of starts to lose its strength. Starts to feel like a little bit too wishy-washy. Separate this stuff. I'll grab this. Let's just kind of pull this in a little bit. And it's pretty incredible what you can get from like 2 values or 3 values. Kind of, I think this is, I should make a reel about this. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's something that kind of made its way into my course a little bit, but it's something I want to kind of expand on more in the future. It's for teaching stuff. There's this magic number of 3 in art that I've found. When we analyze the form of the face, let me show you something cool. I usually limit myself to 3. Let's go. A big 3er in chat. When you look at the face, right, like if you think about the, whoa, oh no, my finger's in the wrong key. I thought I was lagging. We all know like the Loomis method, right? You put the maybe not all of us, but most of us know the Loomis method, right? You take a sphere, you put a center line on that sphere, you kind of wrap some lines that describe the thirds around the sphere, and then you take, this is the chin. The chin's going to connect up to the side of the sphere, just like this. My sphere is like a little bit off to the side. All right, so this is, you know, essentially what the Loomis method is. Maybe we'll connect the neck. There's the side of that. This is going to come down from the back here. All right, there's our construction. So what is the most essential thing of the Loomis method? Normally, it's the thirds of the face, right? And I kind of want to get rid of this extra visual noise, right? So the face has these thirds. The first third is the chin to the bottom of the nose. The next third is the bottom of the nose to the brow. And then the next third is the brow to the top of the forehead, right? This is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It's consistent on most people, and if it's not consistent, it's pretty darn close, so you can start with it and then go, oh, I think their chin's a little bit bigger here. Let me check. Okay, yeah, their chin's a little bit bigger. You bump it down. You know, these things are never... They're only tools, not rules, right? That's a Glenn Villepeu quote. Guy's like 85, so I might just be able to steal that one soon, start claiming it's my own. Rip to the goat. He's not ripped yet, actually. Love that guy. Peace and love. Health and wellness. We have 3 here, right? Well, let's think about the forehead. How do we break the forehead down more? There's one central plane, and then there are 2 planes that curve off to the side. 1, 2, 3. Let's think about the eyes, right? Well, there's one width of an eye. This is the line that goes across them. There's one width of an eye, eyeball. Put one in the middle, and then there's one here. It's 1, 2, 3. That's how you know you have the right size of eyes. Technically, her far eye is going to be a little bit diminished because she's tilting her head away, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than a third, right? You think about let's think about the nose here. We have kind of a trapezoid on the bottom, center line that goes back, and get this box shape. And then we have the 2 sides of the nose. We can't really see the far side of her nose, but we'd have 1, 2, 3 planes on the nose. You think about the lower third of the face. Chin to the top of the chin is 1/3. Top of the chin to the mouth line is another third. Mouth line to the bottom of the nose is 2/3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Or sorry, another third. I'm saying third too many times. It's messing me up, right? You can split the bottom of the mouth, the lower third of the face into 3 points. And this is really accurate. It's pretty accurate consistently. People's chin size varies a lot, but generally the lip line, or the line in between the lips, is 2/3 of the way up from the chin. So there's another 1, 2, 3. If we want to think about the lips themselves too, maybe this is where things break down a little bit. I'd probably use more than 3 planes for this. You could do, I'd probably do something kind of like this. It's technically more than 3. But yeah, everything kind of very cleanly breaks down, I think, into 3 planes. And a plane is just a value, right? If we have a turn in form and that turn gets darker, then that's the same thing as putting a new value down. So that just means that 3 values can very easily describe everything. Need some water. Yeah, so we have kind of a lot of areas on here that I think are the thought behind them was grouped nicely, but then there's too many things that are starting to converge and merge into them. We start to not be able to recognize whether something is light or shadow, or you kind of had these 2 things grouped together. But clearly this one is a shadow, and this one is just a darker halftone of the skin. So by separating things, and we don't got to use... And this is where you just start to run into issues with traditional. I'm not sure if you're using graphite here or charcoal. But you just need to, if it's graphite, it's just a lot of material that needs to be put down on the skin because she has a darker skin tone. So your kind of base value is going to be a lot. Maybe I'll use an airbrush. Get a polygon lasso here. So your base value is just going to generally be darker. Use a darken mode on my blending layer. But by just more cleanly grouping things together, we can separate stuff out. If you're using graphite, I'd recommend, if you want to do more tonal drawings like this, it's probably charcoal, but I'd recommend charcoal because it just gets a lot darker. This just kind of looks like a little bit too gray, which is fine. But I just think, you know, I'm a charcoal stan. Separate this stuff out. Look where there's hard edges, and look where something. Then, you know, once you have stuff separated out into two, just look where you can kind of just pull an edge a little bit. You don't need to do it much, just a little bit. Not even that much. It's too much. Here, let me carve out the highlight here. Look where you can kind of just blur an edge a little bit. I'll use this smudge tool. Right here is really crisp. I don't want to do that, but maybe down here, I smudge this out a little bit. I'm not on the same layer as your drawing, so it's not all evenly smudging together. But keep your stuff clean. Keep everything separated nice. You know, maybe right here too. This is where you'd want to put. Just take your shadow and kind of drag it out towards the light a little bit, and you'll naturally create that transition. That halftone is going to look a lot more natural than some of the like kind of soupiness that happens if you try to carve everything out. Very good, very good, very good. What was that? What time we start? Oh fuck! It's been 90 minutes. Let's take a break, play a couple games of Fortnite. Am I right, guys? No? Okay. We'll just keep going then, I guess. Kids love Fortnite, I heard. It's the new craze. Hi, Jake. Hello. What's up? If charcoal has no haters, I'm dead. Yeah, that's a permaban. That's a permaban from this stream. All right, very good. So we're going to move into the second category here. Let's take a look at all these. I just kind of wanted to set up some big ways to like approach drawing, to think about shapes, think about composition, think about angles, and form ideas. Well, we'll get into more form ideas on this batch, I think. And we kind of already did with the everything is 3 rule. I'm not going to do every single one of these because I always get baited into doing that, and I think it just makes very long, exhausting streams. So let me group people together. Let me see, who kind of goes together? You need more accurate values. You're pretty good. You not use so much airbrush. This is kind of big shape likeness. There's probably some big shape likeness here. Probably some big shape likeness here. Kind of maybe some more true values here. Maybe some big shape likeness here. Maybe true values here. Accuracy and head tilts. I'm gonna kind of get to these. True values. These are both people that can use better values. Here we go. This is the new approach to these, okay? Another airbrush enjoyer here. All right, cool. So what I see between these is some kind of searching for probably too many details for the most of these. So it's a lot of the same stuff I said last time, and I think it just depends, I think, on how you approach and set up this stuff, right? I didn't use airbrush once, though. I don't know which one you are, but yeah, I don't know. There's just too many. An airbrush is the same thing as like a pastel, like textured brush. It's all the same. If it has soft edges, it has soft edges, right? Texture brush is just an airbrush with more steps. But anyways, yeah. I'll get to it. Yeah, I think pretty much with all of these, it's just kind of looking for kind of that big shape language I was talking about on the last one. When you get too focused on all the little details, like I know Emily's here has, like actually the values are pretty nice. The rendering looks nice. Like the rendering's not bad. And I like the application of charcoal. But it's just like losing some of the ideas because we're too fixated on that. I lost my cursor. Hello? There we go. I'm like an old man. I'm going to bring the reference with me. I'm stealing you. Wait, there's a bunch of you. Group? Group, 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 group. No. You? Shift? You? Group? Let's go. Coco Melon is live. Should I bob up and down more, guys? Would you guys think there's a more engaging stream experience if I was like kind of bobbing a lot? Wait, I have an idea. Well, we just max saturation, I think. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Believe. Trust in the process for this one? Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Trust in the process? Just believe? You trust me, don't you? A little bit lighter. And then, wait. Smudge brush. Check this out. Yep, a little bit darker. Soft round. No pressure. Push this in. Yep. And then we need, give me some of this. Give me some of this. Okay. What do we think? Is this enhancing the stream experience? Is this more engaging to watch? It's not Jeff the Killer because I gave him buck teeth. If you remove the buck teeth, it goes back to being scary. Look, he's silly. He's just silly. The tongue's too long. He's kind of freaky with it. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Let me get back to work. Okay, so cool. Let me grab a red here. I think we want to pay attention kind of to our big angles, which I don't think you're too off on here. But I think, you know, our big shape likeness will help a lot too. So kind of setting yourself up with this idea, just like everybody else, right? You look at your width here too and just make sure before you're too deep into the rendering, but really before you render at all, maybe when you kind of like block in with, you lay in kind of your big shadow shapes, you just stop and ask yourself like, what shapes do I see in this? If I back up from mine, like, what do I feel about it, right? If I feel like it's thin, if I feel like, you know, it looks weird, right? Try to attach something that is actually tangible onto that. Well, if it feels fat or it feels thin, then normally that means that either something is too wide or it's too tall, right? If something feels like too thick, right? We got this dump truck and it's like, damn, that feels a little bit too thick, right? Well, that either means that it's just too wide, or It just needs to be too tall. Now, I mean, this is just possibly the thickest ever, so I'm not sure there's any fixing this. It's probably too wide. But generally, if something is too skinny, like if you have a figure that feels or too skinny or too fat, generally you can just make the feet longer or the legs longer, right? And it's going to elongate the figure. And then that thickness, by contrast, is going to get you contextualized within that taller figure, and it's going to not feel that thick. So or you can just trim in the width too. There's always two ways to attack that. Looks like nuts. Haha. Peanuts. One thing too that I saw that I really liked in this that I looked for is that you get this kind of nice shape that comes down here and comes out, right? So you get kind of like this, and that's nice on one side. And what's like these shapes over here? Well, I actually like that you get this kind of shape here. You get this like harder angle break, this squared off side. That's kind of interesting too. And you get like this nice kind of flow that goes from here to here, right? You get this kind of shape language that comes out, and you get this shape language that kind of comes up and maybe meets and redirects over here. You get this nice angle from here to here and here to here. There's some cool ideas that are happening in there. So just take the time and analyze what you're looking at and think to yourself, well, okay, like what are those big shapes? What's the shape of her face too? We get kind of very oval on top, and then kind of squared off on bottom, right? Maybe that's the shape of her head. Kind of flares out like this. You get the shape of her hair. We have, her neck, and we can also just make sure we get the negative spaces right and all this too. It's another really nice way to do it. And where our shoulders meet is about just inside of our hair, and then this kind of goes just outside. So check all that stuff. Where the shoulder comes out halfway through the hair and equal to where this comes out over here, the shoulder should be coming out over here. That's going to make this space not feel so slanted. Where you do have, like, I think a lot of that rounded feeling, but if you take a step back from this, it feels just too much like this, right? So pushing out that shape here on the side, pushing out over here, that's going to contextualize it a bit. And probably still need to bring in the hairline just a little bit. You don't have to make it thinner or taller. You can do both. Thicker or shorter. You can do a little bit of both, and that'll help. Right, if I just do... Can I hold shift and drag that? Yeah. We drag this in a little bit. And we take this too. Drag this up a little bit. And there you go. I mean, that's basically fixed. Where do I take the size off? Maybe more like this, right? And the chin. I think we need to take a little bit of size off the chin. Just looking for those ways. Like, we don't have to do a whole ton of measuring too. Like, you're gonna get yourself in this trap where you're like, but I measured and my measurements told me that it was right. And it's like, yeah, but your measurement was probably like wrong. And that like happens a lot. It happens a lot more than you think. Like, measurement's never that reliable. I mean, you're like holding your hand out in front of your face. Like, it's only kind of, it helps you like kind of verify some stuff, but you can very easily use it. You can very easily use it to just confirm your own biases too, if something's wrong. And that's something you got to look out for. And it's easier to kind of verify stuff at the beginning through like basic shape language. I'll pull this side out a little bit. Now you have like this angle that goes through here is like a slight upwards tilt. And there's a little bit downwards there. Maybe that mouth ends up coming up a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna move on. And that's what I have to say for most people. For you here, I'm just going to tell you to think about your plumb lines. Think about duplicate the painting underneath before moving a selection. That's genius. I actually didn't think of that. Thank you. I always do that, and then I'm always like filling in these like awkward, white spaces. That's really smart. Okay. Like if you look at your plumb line, which is, by the way, a plumb line, just a line with a weight on it. I have a YouTube video about it. I have a short about it. The short explains it pretty well. It's a line with a weight on it. Because of gravity, it always goes down. So you can just use it to think about what is above and below. How often do I physically use a plumb line? It's pretty helpful when you're doing like a figure drawing, but when you're doing a portrait or whatever, a plumb line's not really that useful just because it's a much smaller, more confined shape. It can still be helpful, but just thinking about what is vertical. If I'm drawing off of a screen for my photo reference or whatever, for my monitor, what I do is I just take my pencil and I line up the side of the pencil with the side of the monitor. That way I know that it's parallel to the way that the picture is facing. And then I can just check what is directly above and below something. So what I'm seeing here is like this chin above and below. It looks like yours is just outside where the middle side of this is. It's not too wrong. Chin might be like right here. That's not too bad. If I check... What do I need to check here? The other side of that chin, just on the other side. I'd say that's pretty good, actually. Pull that in. Okay, actually, I don't think your plumb measurements are too bad. I think what you're missing is this big angle. I think the fact that this line goes from here to here to the hairline, and it kind of curves back through a lot of you guys for a loop. But from the chin to the center point of the face, we have this angle, right? And then kind of the head starts to tilt back. Our face is like... I'll do it right here. From like a side profile... I'm going to do this like this. Yeah. From like a side profile... There's my nose. Wonderful. Our face is like pretty flat, and obviously that changes a lot depending on like your ethnicity and all that stuff, your age. But in general, your face is like reasonably flat, or it slopes out a little bit. It's probably not going to be this much slope. That's pretty crazy amount of distance your chin would have. Maybe on some people, I'm not sure. But the further you get up the head, the more it starts tilting back and back and back. Especially once you're above the forehead, that center line starts hooking onto the center of the skull, and it tilts back really, really fast. Very, very fast. It keeps rising a little bit past the forehead, but as soon as it hits halfway to the back of the head, that's where it's at its peak. That's where it's going up parallel, and then from there it starts to curve down, right? So what we're seeing when we have a head tilted up into the side, right, we have this to this, is we have that pretty flat area for the front 2/3 of the face. And then we start to hit that forehead, we start tilting back a little bit, and then we hit the hairline, and that starts to really rapidly hook around there. But this is pretty flat. And I think a lot of you guys kind of see that there's this big angle here to here, and you think like, oh, we wrap around the ball, right? And you start to lose, that flattens out the form. It makes it not make sense. It breaks perspective, basically. Bro, love you, bro, and your content, and your art. That's freaking Kiss, dude. That's awesome. And then one more thing, too, is if the brows are going to go like this. The nose is going to go like this. The corners of the mouth are going to line at this angle. The chin is going to line at this angle. Everything aligns on the face in the same perspective, in the same way. You only need to know one angle across the features. So just always verify, right? Like you kind of have that, right? For these, but your lines end up going like this, right? So like you get all these convergences. This, again, flattening things out, breaking that perspective. Yeah. So if you just tilt this stuff, wait, let me try what that guy told me. What that guy told me. It was Evo. Evo. Did I copy it into the same spot? Probably didn't. Copy, Control C, Control Shift V. There we go. So if I take this and then I... Whoa, why did it get darker? What the frick? Hello? Did they all get darker? I think they did, yeah. Wait, why did there's no adjustment layer? Why did everything get darker? I can't Control Z it. Am I going crazy? Did everything just get darker? Guys, what's happening? That was just Nosferatu, my bad. Wait, why did everything just get more gray? What did I do? Did I delete a channel? All my channels are on. Control U? That would only select a certain layer, right? Yeah. Hello? Are these the right colors? No, it's desaturated. I lost like all my blues. It doubled the image? But this is... Did I double everything? Am I going crazy right now? Wait, let me copy it in from the original post. This is way more saturated. Wait, I'm going back and forth now. Wait, look at this. Tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Look, no. Look, the values are different. Look how much richer and more orange this one is. This one is like all gray and fucked up and shit. What did I do? There's no adjustment layers. All the channels are there. Maybe I put it inside a... No? Wait. I'm going to hide all layers. Alt. Okay, now I'm going to copy this in. No, it's still desaturated. Maybe I changed the RGB color. Then do I put it to 32 bits? Oh, that would merge the whole layer. So I didn't change the color channel. What the frickety frick, bro? How do I unhide all layers? I'm just gonna swipe. Oh god, all my hidden layers are gonna show now. I told you! Holy shit! Now my layers are fucked. I said at the beginning of this stream, almost day one, I said in an hour, 45 minutes, I'm gonna crash out over my layers. It is exactly an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm crashing out over my layers. I am a prophet. What do I do about... Do I have to start a new Photoshop document? I'm gonna start a new document. I'm gonna copy paste everything in. Why is that the only thing that copied in? I pressed Control C. Stop. Do I have to group it? Group? Oh! No, that didn't work. Wait, I changed the layer mode on something. Let me just check all 50. No, I'm not checking. I'm gonna copy them and do something new. Copy all. I love you, Photoshop. I love you. Fuck. G, Control C, Control V. Why? What? Not the channel, but the profile. Image. Where's the profile? It says I have an RGB profile, and it says if I want to change the CMYK, it flattens everything. So if it would have flattened everything if I did change the image mode, right? Go to view. There's no view. Image view? Oh, view. There is a view. My bad. Go to view. Proof setup. Gamut warning. Pixel aspect ratio. We love the Jake Don't Draw live stream experience. It wouldn't be a Jake Don't Draw fucking live stream experience without a horrible technical error. What am I supposed to be looking at? There's a button. You know the hotkey? Oh. There is a button. There's a button. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I changed the image profile. Image. Fuck, I don't remember how to unchange it. I might have to Google it. Mode. Oh, I changed the Photoshop how to change color profile. Edit to convert to... I don't have to convert to profile. I gotta undo that hotkey, bro. Edit. Convert to profile. Profile working RGB. Oh! Let's go! Yeah, okay. I've hit that before and been like really confused. Okay. This time I handled it really well though. I lost all my layers. Wait, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, now now this thing is back. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's all, everything's fine. Where's my reference photos? All right, we're one thing at a time here, y'all. I found them. I found them. I did not find them. You can be hidden. You can be hidden. Oh, you're everything. You're my everything. This is so fucked, dude. My layers suck. All my layers got messed up now. That one wasn't even my bad. I'm crashing out. Ungroup layers. Here, hide. You hide. You hide. You hide. You also hide. You can probably stay, but I'm gonna make you hide anyways. Okay, we're making progress. I'm never putting a layer under something again. I completely lost my reference photos. I'm just going to copy and paste them in. That's called efficiency. Sometimes you got to just not autistically hyperfixate in on solving a specific problem and instead just move on, which is something that's really hard for me. All right, welcome back to the Jake Don't Draw stream experience, everybody. It was this guy. It was the Green Goblin. Remember how I said I wasn't going to draw over everybody? Why am I using polygon lasso? Normal lasso. All right, I'm just going to fix your proportions here. You get a tilt like this. Very good. We just fixed these tilts up. Your nose was already pretty good. Your mouth just needed a little bit of tilt. Boom. We tiltify. We angulate. We group our shadows together a little bit nicer, a little bit more. Maybe we pull our mouth over a little bit. So just keep things consistent. We reduce the size of this third. A little too much. We keep our perspective consistent, and it gets better. And also pay attention to all the shape language stuff that I discussed about everybody about this type of stuff. You know what I mean? All right. I'm doing everybody. I can't help it. I can't help it, man. You're all just so beautiful and unique, and I love you all so much. I just can't help but recognize your individuality by critiquing all of you. It's basically the same shape language stuff I said about everyone else, right? All right, yeah, moving on. Just kidding. Yeah, what you don't want to do too, like just like you don't want to chase down individual shapes, like I was talking to other people about, is you don't want to chase down like every value transition as well. Like that type of stuff, it becomes just a mess. It becomes a mess for the same exact reason that trying to get every strand of hair becomes a mess, getting every proportion becomes a mess, getting every value change a mess, getting every shape a mess, right? Instead of kind of working within some sort of order that allows you to bring some level of harmony to everything, which is our goal. So, you know, look how angular this plane changes, right? I already discussed that on the forehead, we have 3 planes, right? This is our forehead. And we can break up that forehead into one plane in the center that goes up, and then 2 planes on the sides that go down. And we see that being demonstrated very clearly in front of us, right? Like we have this very hard, this is called the frontal lobe, I believe, of the skull. We have this kind of big plate of armor that sits on our forehead, and it's catching like pretty much a perfect square of light, my guy. And then we have these 2 that are going off on the sides, just like this. And they form these kind of nice wedge shapes that's telling us that it's moving down and in this direction, which is probably, by the way, a good direction for your brush strokes to go in. Right, where like we lose a little bit of that. We lose a little bit of that because we get a little bit too focused on, oh, I want the smooth transitions. Looks like, I actually thought this was gouache for a second. It's digital. You want the smooth transitions. You want to get the colors. You want to get the shapes right. You start trying to do everything at once, and we lose the things that you know, actually bring us a good image, right? Or a well-organized image, right? So like, let's say this is our forehead here. We want to carve this down and out, and we unify this together, right? Unify that together. Boom. With this, you know, we're probably a little bit too bright too. Maybe I'll talk to color about some other people. Maybe not that much. Probably a little bit too saturated still. Let me drop this a little bit. Drop the light on that a little bit. Yeah, it's probably more in that gray. Right, and then if you want to, and you need to know how to do this sparingly. I don't trust you right now, all right? You need to earn this. You're allowed to kind of airbrush or use a texture brush or smooth an edge or whatever. But you're going to get a much, much, much clearer read from this stuff. By recognizing that there's hard edges, right? Not everything is perfectly soft on the human face. It's actually more mechanical and structured than if it wasn't, right? We just get a much clearer read. Obviously, we can use a little bit of subtlety in there, but generally, I would kind of suggest erring on the side of harder edges than softer edges. I think you'll lose everything if you have two edges that are too soft everywhere, but you'll maintain a strong sense of style if you have too hard edges everywhere. And it's pretty easy, at least digitally, to kind of soften up an edge. Hardening up an edge can be a little bit more difficult. I'm trying to think. One of my teachers used to say, I think, the exact opposite of that. But I think it depends on the situation. Did he? I think it's easy. Yeah, he used to say it's easy to add a hard edge to softness, but it's hard to turn a hard edge soft, which is true when you're working kind of traditionally. Like if you put down a really hard line, you're never going to turn that into a perfectly smooth gradient. But digitally, it's a little bit different, right? Cool, yeah. So kind of the big same shape language stuff for you as well. Former student of mine, Felicia. Nice to see you submitting stuff. I think the color and value and stuff is really good. Like, I know that you paint a lot with your group. So like the in general, like the color saturation and hue and stuff, like this is nice. And I'm assuming that this is much darker if it didn't have a bunch of glare on it. which is nice. But there's definitely like a kind of a lack of searching for those shapes, in the same way that I've given everyone else. And I've already been through with you, you know, the ways that like shape creates form. Like you've heard it before. It's always useful to hear again. But sometimes, like, you know, shapes just are nice on their own, right? To create kind of the character and the feeling of the model. And you have a lot of that stuff, right? You kind of check some of these big angles here. So I think we do have this right to left tilt. It's kind of subtle here. Here into here. And then you really just want to, you know, back up and ask, like, oh, does the head, you know, does this distance feel right? Does it feel a little bit too tall? Does it feel like if I check my plumb line here to here, the left edge of this chin should be hitting the left edge of this forehead? Right, the forehead probably feels like it comes out a little bit too wide. You know, we get these kind of nice arcing rhythms that move around. It's actually a little not so arcing, straight, and then kind of arcs out to the side for this eye. And then you kind of see more of this on this eye, which I think you did pretty well. Comes back. That nose, and I probably need to shift my center line over just a little bit, but that nose does project off the center line. It also returns to it, right? This nose comes down and connects and plugs in back to that center line. And then we have this here. And I think all these values are nice, but like, look at this lip shape too. This lip shape is really, really interesting. Right, and I have the image kind of small here because this is even though this is a 6,000 by 4,000 canvas, I got a lot of shit on it. Actually, it's much bigger than that now. Like, look at this little like lemon wedge shape that you get. And then you get kind of this contrasting shape down here. Like, this is a cool yin and yang style structure with like darkness here, and then you get highlights here and here. Like, think about that stuff, right? Find those nice dark accents here. Clear up some of this, kind of this gap here, and this comes down and connects over here. Comes over the other side, a little bit thinner over there, and then you do get this kind of like nice little characteristic gap in the teeth come through like right here. And it's probably a little bit too light. Right. We can kind of close some of that in, and this shape ends up peaking at its highest on this side. And there's some like color and value stuff I could say here too, but I think in general that's the biggest issue, is kind of finding these things early on that makes this model look like this model. Right, and then we have kind of like, there's a bigger read to this stuff. I don't like this song. Got the... This song's so long. Let's go. I already showed mine, Cat, so that's basically the same thing as you submitting yours. There's this whole side plane to the head, right? Don't forget about your big value groups while you chase down all those little color changes, right? Like, there is kind of this big read. A little bit too dark here. For the side of the head. And then like you get this big kind of separation over here, it's darker. I'm just assuming I lost this one to value. Right, just like you get this kind of dark side over here, dark side over here. You know, you want to make sure that you don't kind of play up these values too much. Right, probably a little bit more red too. So make sure you keep those kind of hard edges so that you don't lose the structure, right? Because if you start chasing down like this color and this color and this color, this value, this value, this value, you start to lose. Now this whole kind of cheekbone feels like it's just rounding off, and it feels kind of up and down, and it's just like not very clear where the form is. Whereas like lay down those big groups, and then you want to soften up an edge. You know, let's say you got this color here, this color here. I think this, you got this color here, and maybe you got like, you know, a brush mark down here. Well, then like take your rake brush or your fan brush or you know, whatever, or any clean brush, and you know, take up one tone in it and drag your tone into your lights, or your lights into your dark. Drag your shadows just up a little bit and just fray the edge. Like you don't gotta you know, transition everything perfectly. Right, if I showed this painter earlier. Let's go back here. Elaine Schierfbeck. And I absolutely love this painting. This is crazy. Like this is I don't think this is the greatest painting in the world, but it's a damn good painting. And if any of you could paint this, I'd be hella impressed. If I painted this, I'd be certainly very happy. And this is like very, very typical 19th century style. This is the way that everyone painted back then. And what's interesting about this painting, I think, isn't that like it's got the greatest composition in the world. It's got a really nice composition, though. It isn't that it's got the greatest color in the world. It's got decent color. This isn't a person who is a technical mastermind of anatomy. No, I don't think these are like the you know, greatest hands ever drawn, right? It's not some sort of super hardcore academic work. But everything in this painting just works good enough and like pretty well. And it creates this image that I think is really compelling. That's like beautifully posed. Like you get these great rhythms that slide down this person's body, that comes out to, you know, these rhythms that come out of the trunk of the body through the arm, and they splay out into here. You get this nice rhythm that carries out into the distance, that goes off like this. You're telling a story about this guy who looks longingly. You know, again, like, is this the greatest hand ever? No, but it works good enough. Is this the greatest gun ever? No, it's only got basically 3 tones, right? Maybe even like 2, basically. But it works great. And what you can see about these transitions is that it's very clearly just kind of like, okay, there's like a light skin tone here, there's like a mid-tone here, I put my shadow in, and then I drag my shadow into my lights into my shadows. You can see it very clearly on this. And, you know, I don't care if you're... you know, the greatest painter in the world, that's the way you work, right? But your values and your stuff gets more accurate over time. So I think like this is like a nice example of someone who's perfectly executing the technique. Maybe doesn't have Bouguereau levels of values, but Bouguereau's working the same exact way as well. He's just kind of nailing everything at a degree of precision that's unbelievable. Assets, master artists, Abram Arkhipov, no. Fuck, it's a German name. I know how to find it. One second, guys. I'm going to pull up a very specific painting here. I showed this on stream a little while ago. Ah, here it is. Okay. Grab this painting. Actually, let's pull it over to here. All right, this is a German academic painting from the late 19th century. Like, this is obviously someone who is like a insane technical draftsman. Really nice sensitivity to like the anatomy. Things are much more thoroughly explained on this hand versus the last one. But the same thing's happening, right? Like, there's just a light that's put down. There's a halftone that's already been scrubbed into the canvas pretty thin. That's just kind of what they call the demi-teinte in France. It just means like kind of that general tone. And then there is this like this grayish halftone that's been put in. And then there's like black for the shadows. There's some brown that's been scrubbed in underneath too. And there's not 10 transitions. He didn't try to go like, okay, and it shifts a little bit more red, and then it goes a little bit more violet, and then it goes yellow, and there's like nice value steps all the way. He's like, no, 1, 2, 3, take the fan brush, drag it in, drag it out, right? And it's absolutely spectacular, and it sells the form even more. I mean, this is like this is so crazy right here. This is like mind-bogglingly good. But you see it everywhere. And you know, again, like even if somebody's super refined, Bouguereau does it. But he just does it a little bit more sensitively. But the technique doesn't change at all. And if you try to like do, you know, add a million little things, it just... not even Bouguereau himself would try that, right? Let me read the chat. Let me look at the name of that. I'll put it in chat. By, I don't even know how to, Axentowitz Theodor. It's a German academy, I think maybe Munich Academy School, painting. They did a lot more of like kind of those genre scene, longer paintings in Germany. A lot of the, by that time, a lot of the stuff was just like pretty typical academic, French academic technique. The Germans did a lot of life-size figures too, and life-size portraits. Kind of interesting. They did a lot of like graphite work as well. I'm gonna move on. Cool. I think you guys... Wait. Shh. Come on. Group. Grab. Group them and grab them. Okay. Cool. I think you guys did reasonably good, and all of you could use some level of advice on the shape language and the tilts and the construction and all that stuff, but would benefit, I think, a lot from, and this is nice too, actually, you're kind of not overdoing it, but your guys are pretty much all kind of overcooking. You guys are all overcooking in some degree. You, I would give kind of the same critique as this person over here. Where like we can just make things a little bit more defined. We can find where our planes are. Also, just check your tilts, right? Most of you guys, you got to check your tilts. You know, which I get it. It's hard. I'm gonna introduce something to you called relative value contrast, right? When you look at a black color on a gradient. Black to white. Okay. And I take a... So this is a mid-tone gray. I'll make it actually mid-tone. I'm like really struggling with my layers right now, guys. You can put the dog in Photoshop, but the dog's not going to learn how to use Photoshop. I think that's the saying. Right. You take this mid-tone gray, and we can stick it over here, and you see how that dark that looks, right? This looks real dark. Look at that. Like right in front of your eyes, it feels like it just gets darker. Dark, light. It's the same color, guys. It's the same color. This is a trick your eyes play. Your eyes perceive things based on what's around them. So the problem is, when we see a highlight on the hair, we go, oh, highlight. Highlights are white. Yeah, I love highlights. But they're not white, right? And actually, there's very little that's pure white in this image, right? This is pure white, I would say. I mean, actually, in the image, it's only 85. I would probably push it closer to white in my painting because it's a specular highlight. That specular highlights are white, I think. Maybe you guys can give me an example of a specular highlight that isn't white. I'm not an expert at that stuff. But anyways, this is a reflective highlight. You know, this is pretty much white, even though when I color pick it, it doesn't say it is. I think that's just because of the way the images work. You know, these are highlights, but they're highlights on a black surface, right? And they're not like, this is hair is kind of a diffuse surface too. So it's not like water. It's not like shining a spotlight on something or a metal ball that perfectly reflects back pure white. It's like shining a spotlight on a metal ball that you took sandpaper to and scuffed it up until it's super rough. Or like shining a super bright spotlight on a wood ball that's, you know, a little smooth. You're going to see maybe a little highlight, but it's very, very diffuse, right? And it's not going to be pure white. So, Theodore studied under Duran. I wouldn't be surprised if he came into contact with Helio Baldini. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that guy, most of those people, or a lot of those people went to Paris as well to study. Not all the German people did, but a lot of them did. And a lot of the teachers had kind of switching back and forth at that point. The hair is also specular, though it's called anastrophic or whatever. Yeah, they actually are both specular, but it's just because the hair is it's more diffuse, has a darker local color. I think mostly it's the roughness of the hair. Doesn't perfectly reflect light, whereas she probably has lip gloss on or something, and that's going to be super specular. So that's going to be much closer to white, right? Whereas if you know, same thing with like, somebody has like sweat running down their face gets super shiny because water is more reflective or more specular than skin does. So anyways, you're getting tricked a little bit, right? And you know, this is probably black in person, and you have some glare on the photo. But certainly, you know, these things are getting a little bit too light. And they're also kind of like, oh, I'm a brushstroke, and I'm a brushstroke, and I'm a brushstroke, and I'm a brushstroke, and I want to be brushstroke, I want to be brushstroke, I want to do. Come on, go up the layer, bro. I don't know how to go up the layers fast in Photoshop. Sometimes it just doesn't scroll up. Wait, I wanted to put it. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, this guy's watching you. You don't want to know what happens if you let everything be a brushstroke. If you let everything be the center of the show, nothing's to show. All right, and then he eats you alive. So there's some things like we don't have any highlights here on the edge, and we don't gotta like perfectly frame everything, right? Like it's okay. Kind of group this stuff together a little bit more. And then pick out some areas that you don't make too light. The green guy's gonna lick off the highlights. I didn't know where I was going with the bit, okay? Sometimes I start the bit before I know how it ends. I thought about just not saying anything at all. But you can kind of find a shape that fits the flow of the hair. Right, you know, maybe this is the shape we want to use. And we don't let this stuff steal the show. We let this take place in its group. This hair has its groups, right? You know, just like this is happening in every single section of your painting, right? We have our forehead. On the forehead, you're like, oh, I want to be a shadow. You know, everyone, I'm a shadow. And this tone's probably really accurate. It's pretty accurate, right? But then you're like, oh, but this shadow here, and then there's different tones on there, and I want to show them all off. And this, it gets a little bit lighter as it goes up here, so I got to adjust the tone. And then, well, there's a highlight here, so I know that this has to get lighter, so I'm going to mix a bunch of white into it. And then there's highlights over here, so, oh, but then this is too light, so then now I need to make the highlight even brighter. Everything starts to, like, fight for each other, right? Whereas, like, if we just take this, you know, like, this isn't that bright. It's 6 out of 10. This is, like, 4 out of 10, right? So, like, really... And we can use dude, I'm so good. Darken. I'm gonna use a darken layer mode. Okay, guys, the old me is dead. I use Photoshop brushes now. I use layer modes now. I'm different. Okay, I'm currently looking for one that's gonna work well. I'll use an airbrush, right? And then I'll grab a hard round brush. We'll use darken. And we'll say, well, I'll just pick this color, right? Wait. I'm it's gonna need to be a little bit brighter by contrast. Lighten? Normal. We'll just normal this one, guys. This is called the click everything until it works technique. All right, it's because everything on yours is a little bit lighter than the other one, so I can't color pick off of it exactly. So I'll just bump up the lights so I can make a point. But I'm gonna switch to a super cool brush. Ochavnarya. All right, when we add hard edges, we build the feeling of a planar model in there. We build the feeling of form changes, right? And there's some shape stuff too. Like, you know, now we can see this feels too round. It feels like the center line maybe needs to go over here, or the far side should be a little bit smaller. Kind of stuff that you might be able to understand a little bit better if you're not like, I need to get every value in on a fully specular surface and show every value and highlight and color. Like, nah, I only need 3. And only needing 3 kind of unlocks enough brain power for me to think about something else. That might be more important, like your proportions, right? So always compare, you know, the lesson here is always compare everything back to your lightest lights and your darkest darks. So if I want to say that this is white, you know, is the white of the eye brighter than this? No, it's actually darker. So like we don't need to use white here. I'm gonna use darken. I'm gonna just take the airbrush. I'm gonna darken the shit out of your whole fucking painting. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh my god, it's so beautiful and harmonized. Right? This side gets darker, you know, darkness on this side, and oh my god, the painting is just coming together. Wowie, 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 wowie. It's that Maui wowie, baby. Compare everything back to your lightest light and your darkest dark. That goes for... You can use some of that advice. You can use some of that advice a little bit. This person nailed the values perfectly. I already told you. You just need to... you gotta just... Again, like, hard lines give us strength, they give us power. Power! You guys know Jeremy Fragrance? Up in this bitch? Whatever, what happened to him, man? He was on top of the world. He fell off. It's gonna happen to me one day, man. It's gonna happen to JDD one day. We get so much strength, so much power. Through just letting an edge be an edge. Because there's plane changes on the body. Not everything is a perfectly round shape. Not everything is perfectly hard-edged either, but there are hard-edged things. And those hard-edged areas are areas where there are bones, right? So like, here is an area where we don't want it to be soupy. We want to say, hey, this is the cheekbone coming out, and it is showing the side of the face. And we have an angle. Right? Like we have an edge. It should be darker. We want everyone to know that that's the side of our face. If we really want them to know, you know, we put the pure black next to it. We don't gotta soften everything. All right, the top of our cheekbones. You did a good job, like getting this stuff in here, right? Where's another really strong planar structure? Well, normally the features, right? Both the lips and the nose, especially with the nose here. Look at how sharp these shadows are under it. That's telling us, when we have a sharp shadow, it's telling us that we have a strong light source that's probably close by. It's not really diffuse. It's telling us, it's describing the structure, what's above it. Probably brought that out a little bit too much. If the edge of your nose is blurry, your nose is like caving in on itself. That's a bad thing. That's not what a nose looks like, right? Because that means that it's like mushing around. That's just like not possible. It means that your nose is made out of mist, I guess, right? Like if you looked at someone in real life and they were blurry, it would mean probably the most reasonable answer is that they just like puffed a fat vape cloud around themselves, right? Am I using using the wrong reference for that one? Oh, I was using the wrong reference. Sorry. Yeah, Discord's in the description, everybody. The same thing still applies, though. It pretty much changes nothing. So, you know, let an edge be an edge, man. It's like, you know, a lot of people are up in this, you know, oil painting. They're doing some oil paintings, and they're like, oh, I want every pile of paint to be super thin, and I don't want to waste any paint at all, and so I'm gonna thin everything out with linseed oil and put down tiny dabs of paint and use super soft brushes. And it's like, that's, you know, I guess you can use oil paint for that, but it's really not where it shines the best, right? I mean, oil paint's really flexible, so like you kind of can use it like that if you want. Maybe a better example would be like, I'm going to use watercolor, but I'm only going to use thick bristle brushes, and I'm going to, you know, get as much thick watercolor goop on my paint as possible, and I'm going to get an impasto watercolor texture. And it's like, it's just not, that's not like what the medium is good at. I actually don't remember how I started saying this because it doesn't really relate to edges. Oh, the reason why I brought... I baited myself. I just unlocked myself, sorry. The reason why I brought up oil paint is because people do that. They try to be super conservative with everything. But like oil paint flows the best when you let there be edges. Just like I was showing like a few minutes ago with that example of those paintings where like there's edges. And then if you want to soften them up, just flick one edge with a fan brush into another, right? Like we don't gotta paint like 100 transitions, right? Like that's where things start to fall apart. And you normally get those issues when you're just kind of like too scared of things. So if you're Helene Scherfbeck, like I'm not kidding. Like my biggest failure in making this painting right here is I would paint this hand and I would be like, oh no, I'm fucking terrible at art. I'm not good enough. Like I need to go study again. I need to go learn more about bones. Like, and I'd quit the painting. I'd paint like this head and I'd be like, oh, this doesn't look good at all. Like, it's not realistic, and there should be more advanced, you know, better transitions of light and color, and there should be better halftones, and really this eye, you know, might be too bright, and like, I guess there's like some planes here that read nice, but, you know, I should have transitioned this better, and I'd quit. That's 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times, I'm doing that. It takes a level of confidence to be able to just put something down, flick, you know, some other paint into it, and be like, okay, that's an edge. I'm moving on with the rest of this painting, and then finishing the painting, and you get something that is like beautiful, well composed, a great painting, right? Like that's the biggest failure. It takes and that's why I love the French academic stuff, because they didn't give a shit at all, dude. They would just throw this down and just make it happen. And some of the stuff, when you zoom in on it, even though it's the most amazing painting ever, you're like, oh, fuck, I have a good example. Where can I find that? It's a John Paul Lorenz painting, high quality image that Ramon Hurtado took. I doubt it. I don't think I have a John Paul Lorenz photo. Fuck. It was in my old teaching folder. Wait, I can find this. Teaching classes. Oh man, it's my ultra old teaching photo. No. Shit. Oh, I really want that example to show you guys. It's from Ramon's first trip to Paris back in 2023. If I go to this folder, I'm almost done looking. I'm sorry, guys. I have to. It's like a thing in my head. I just have to find it. I'm gonna give it one more shot. I think I know where it might be. I'm in my mind palace so hard right now. Let me just search for Lorenz in this photo. Oh, you know, there's just so many like gigantic paintings. Oh, this is it. I don't have the close-ups though. Ah, I can only show you what's gonna look impossibly good, but I can't show you the actual close-up of it. That's like the simplest thing ever. Fuck! I hate painting. I hate art. Everything looks... I didn't mean to switch my face. I didn't mean to switch my face. Everything always looks so complicated, and everybody tries to paint it in the most complicated way possible. And then you look at old art, and it's just like, it's so simple and it's so clear. Anyways, throw down some hard edges, my jit. I swear, the first one you submitted was better than this. Let me go find it. We only had one person submit after 2. It was Caterpillars. Wait, this was the first one you submitted. Dude, I think it's better. Wait, let me see. Where are all these paintings coming from? I'm just gonna start stacking shit on. I don't care anymore. I don't care about anything anymore. My life is a sick, twisted mess after Karen left. You said this one was better than this one. I think you just added like a couple highlights. And you smoothed too many edges. Yeah, I like this one more. But like, you know, you just did the same thing I said to the last person, right? Where you're like, just put the edge down, man. There's like a pretty defined edge here. Look how crisp this is. Maybe there's a little bit of blurriness like right here. But like, I know you tried to change the colors on me. I'm not falling for the bait this time. You always find a way to rage bait me. Actually, this guy always rage baits me. He rage baited me so hard. If you guys are going to submit multiple paintings or corrections to the painting, that's fine. Delete the old one. When I was putting this together, I'd be like, all right, I put Potluckins in, and then I put like 10 more in, and then I was like, oh, another Potluckins. Okay, I'll put that in. And I put like 10 more in. And then there was a third painting, and each one was like, please use this one instead. Just delete the old one, man. I had to put in 3 of them and then delete them, and now I'm going back. You always rage bait me, dude. I don't know how you do it. Will you save the VOD? All the live streams are on my... You just go to my channel, you click the live tab, and it's kind of confusing to find. Yeah, let your edges be edges, bro. Especially in here, right? Like, and this is low resolution, so like this probably was a harder edge. But just like push it to black, give it a hard edge, and then like... maybe you don't need like such a curve in here. Well, actually, maybe with this one, there is more of a curve. Yeah, it is more of a curve. Yeah. And then I'd just be careful with like... this plane of light, right? Like this is a ball, and then you have like a plane of light like this, and then this is curving away from the light, right? You kind of airbrush the shit out of that light all the way around, right? And that doesn't make sense because the light's coming from the top right. So you only get this plane of light. You kind of pulled it around too much, and then that makes it feel like the light's coming from like down like this, right? So again, let your edges be edges, bro. No more airbrush for you. You're banned. Moving on. A little bit of Cocoa Melon for you. Oh, it's like a dark, twisted vision. He looks scary again from back here. This one looks nice. It's like very digital style to this one, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Like you got, I can tell you did like line work, and then you put in like airbrushy stuff, and I really like how you let like hard edge like you airbrushed and you know how to use an airbrush for the most part. Like this is a great hard edge that you put in here. And these are like pretty good transitions that you got in here too. I think you did a nice job. You know, some areas that I would kind of strengthen up a little bit. Well, one is, and I think this is, it's not a problem with line art, I guess. The people that tend to work in this style, you know, you kind of get, do you add a necklace to, oh, she's wearing a necklace. Oh my God, I didn't even notice. People that kind of work in this style, oh, love this. It's really good. They kind of get you do your line art and then you put in your airbrush or whatever, and then you kind of work on your edges and stuff. It's kind of like that process. And the problem with that is that you kind of put in the line art and then you're like, okay, drawing's done, moving on. And you hit this stage that's like good enough, right? Where like, I think that we are missing some kind of, some important things in this. Right, like primarily like this big angle, right? Where like probably want to kick the chin out a little bit, pull it back a little bit. Probably want to like pull some of this stuff in. You know, maybe you can say that you kind of push the gesture on purpose, and I think that's okay. Well, I know that's totally fine if you want, but then if you did, then I would kind of like pull the flow of the neck too. And I mean, I really like these shoulders. This is pretty good. Although, like, you probably could just add some like more subtle straights into here, and that's going to help like define a lot of the volume in this, right? Because I know that this is a big curve, and this is kind of like another thing that like more stylized or digital style artists do that have the process. Like you get the big curve in, but then, you know, if you're going to come to somebody, you know, like me, who's more on the realist side, like I'm going to tell you to try to find kind of the structure within that curve to seek the next level there. Because, you know, we're defining what's happening, right? You know, we have, this is probably where like the scapular is, the chromium process. This little wedge from the scapula here. The trap is coming in, connecting right here. This is where this is from the deltoid, and then the deltoid's coming off of this. Right, this is like the acromion process. And then this is coming out like this, right? You can kind of see this connected. And then this is the shoulder blade, scapula, and the armpit. And just adding like a few straight lines in here really helps show what those definitions are. Because like this is really nice. And like, you know, again, like the deltoid ends right around here. You can give like a little bit of roundness to that deltoid, and then pull the arm out of it, right? I know that like the contrast here isn't really enough to worry about. But I think it does add something that, you know, separates those masses and gives a little bit more flow. But I would, you know, try to really take the time to adjust this stuff and get your everything aligned. I think what's happened here is, you know, you get the rotation, which again, if you want to say that's style, that's fine. Probably, you know, this eye is a little bit too diminished though. A little bit too small compared to this one. And then we have like some, well, I think you did a decent job. So I want to focus this. Yeah, this is nice. She has like another small thing too, is like the right side of this lip peaks a little bit higher in both of these poses. I'm not sure if that's just how her lip is, or if that's kind of the gesture she's doing with her mouth. But I think it adds a lot to the lips to do that. And you get a lot softer of an edge around the lips too, especially right in here. All right, let me go to your layer. I'll bring that highlight back. So I think like you kind of hit everything like most of the way, 80%. which obviously you have like a pretty developed style. But I would encourage you to kind of like look for that next level of like adding planes, finding hard edges, squaring stuff off where it needs to be squared off, and thinking about like the value changes that are going to happen within that too, right? So there are, you know, a little bit more development to some of this stuff that you could look for. That could help you out a lot. You know, not all this stuff, especially when you get shadows too, like they form pretty characteristic shapes. You know, right here's pretty hard edge. And we'll pull this down as well, kind of square this off a little bit too. And I think you get kind of more of a transitioning value here. And you know, the top of this forehead is definitely darker, right? Because again, we have like one plane here in the front, two on the sides. Actually, the frontal lobe of the forehead isn't the whole forehead. It's just the front part of it. And then this is where the forehead starts to curve back before it hits the hairline. So we get another plane here that gets darker. All right, so you can probably push this a little bit, and it kind of tends to warm up in temperature. As we push towards that darkness, boom, 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 boom. You know, we have that strength and power right there. You know, we can push some of our edges in here, I think. Yeah, I think it's just for you. It's just like kind of whether or not you want to hit that next level, or whether you're happy with just your process. Cool. I mean, next level of like realism, right? Not saying that you have to hit some sort of skill level. Yeah, Salome is a nice example, you're right. Kind of actually the same. These are like the same exact thing in like different styles, but I still think they're like very stylized, right? We're like, obviously you've developed this like Canson, Mi-Tens, Nitrum charcoal, white charcoal, you know, style. That's very wispy, and you know, you kind of have this specific look to it, and that's cool. But I think it's gonna kind of open you up to losing a lot of like some important shape language, right? Right, like if you don't take the time to like establish everything that's there, and you know, all your heads are this wispy style, like you can kind of get away with things that are not really correct. It's this one, right? Yeah. Gotta make this bigger. Insane layer management. You can kind of get away with like a lot of stuff, right? Whereas like you're using charcoal, like why would you? And you put blacks in, but the, you know, the blacks aren't. They're kind of just wherever in the hair, right? They're not shapes that are telling us a specific thing. They're not like defining focal points, right? Like you could look to use accenting, you know, dark accents and straight lines to kind of bring a point of clarity and focus, right? In the same, you know, maybe you want this like left side of the face to be the focal point, right? Or maybe you want to have like a through line like this, right? So actually, let me use no, the layer mode won't matter. My drawing brush. Right, so use some accenting, some depth to really push this stuff. I mean, I would just recommend you use an actual full value range too. But if this is the style that you want to do, then I'm not gonna. Nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna critique it based on realism stuff, because there's no sense in me critiquing your style based on your style, because I don't know your style. It's not my voice. All right, so you can push some of these accents. I would probably, you know, we're kind of missing a lot of like the depth and shadows in here, which are pretty hard edged. I pretty much just say the same. I kind of pick like one theme for these. I don't mean to do it. I kind of pick like one theme, but again, like, you know, we're missing this plane here too, right? It's the same deal as the last 10 people. And I think that like yours looks really nice because you have this really developed, beautiful, material process. But that kind of shields you, right? In the same way that it makes it look very beautiful. So something to think about. Right, there's hard edges over here. You can make them more wispy if you don't want the focal point to be so strong. I like it better than reality. Yeah, sure. If your style is what you like and then that's fine. But they submitted it for critique, so I'm gonna give them critiques that will hopefully help them develop things further into a different direction, or into a direction that can hopefully kind of give their stuff more strength. Right. The problem is with like putting in, I shouldn't accent all of this, right? The point of an accent is not to do everything. If I put in black accents everywhere, then I have to redo the entire value scheme for the entire drawing, right? So it gets kind of. Then we have this shape that you could bring out in here, kind of get those corners in. Find some of that Christmas right here. It's Christmas. It's only 10 days till Christmas. Right. Just pushing some stuff, right? I don't even like the accents on here that much. You can find more planes, find more ways to direct the viewer's gaze, right? I always recommend too, just, composing the image within your paper, right? So, either finishing the body or finding a way to, if this was on a gallery wall, what would you want to show, right? I feel like the space, it's pretty well composed. There's kind of like a lot of space up here, which is probably fine. But you could think about a background. Now, you really couldn't put a background in with this style because then you'd have to readjust all the values, and that would it'd pretty much be a different drawing. But, I'd maybe try to like taper out some of the values in this direction too, some of the darkness. Right, it kind of creates confusing stuff where our reflected light is the same values, our halftones, and some of our lights, and but in actuality, it's actually much, 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 much darker. Those are just some of the stuff, right? We also lose the shape of the hair too, which I think is a very characteristic idea. Very thematic play, if you will. Curious about your thoughts on Renoir. Renoir did a few nice things when he was in academic training, and then after his academic training, he decided that he was going to do something else, and he wasn't interested. And he started to pride himself on being able to do portraits in 15 minutes. And I think he looks like a guy that paints portraits in 15 minutes. The stuff kind of fell off. Not all that great. He does a few nice things here and there. But it got very, very, very gaudy later on in his life. I'm just not a big fan of it. But if you like him, that's cool. Just my opinion. It's just another one of the stylized one. Holy, we got some style people in chat. Some style chuds. Is it harder to draw darker skin tones, or is it just difficult things there? Or is it just everything is just as difficult as everything? But somebody did recommend that we did somebody with darker skin tones, because we normally do white people, because most artistic reference photos are European white models. So I hadn't actually drawn that many black people. I've done quite a few, but compared to the amount of reference photos that I've drawn that are just European men and women, pretty much fair skin tones, there's just so many more reference photos, especially for the academic world, which kind of just slants white, which I'm kind of always looking to open this stuff up to as many groups as possible. And I love having a community that's truly from all over the place. So I'm glad somebody recommended that we do somebody with a darker skin tone. And I learned a lot on this. It was really fun. you get a lot of like really interesting kind of grays in here, but the range of colors definitely skews more towards the red overlapping towards the purple area, whereas kind of white people are more in that blush pink, maybe slanted towards yellow. So like you kind of shift over the colors more warm, and then just the saturation is really high in general. Especially in the shadows. The shadows pretty much all go to like this really, really dark, super red shadow. So it was fun to search for the different saturation differences, and that was a fun part of learning this. And I definitely learned a lot about kind of different temperature shifts, especially too when you get areas that like get super cold and gray, like right in here. And there's some interesting grays, especially like in here too. But it's no different than drawing any other skin tone, right? It was Vam. Yeah, Vam submitted one too. Thank you, Vam. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's always just like you match the colors, you match the values. It doesn't matter if somebody's green, you know. But doing anything for the first time is always going to be harder. Yeah, I actually really like the way you approach this. There's like a nice, like the edge quality, right? You kind of like have these harder edges, you have the airbrushed edges, they're nice. It's just like a little bit too stylized, right? Like you just have to, like even if you started a painting like this, dude, if you started your painting like this, it'd be sick. And then like kind of just, okay, what adjustments do I need? I'm kind of changing my tune on stuff like Liquify. And I'm still against recommending or having beginners use Liquify because I think it just, it creates too many problems, but that they should solve in a more simple way at first. But I use Liquify on mine for this for the first time ever, and damn if it ain't helpful. I'm very conflicted. I'm still not sure how to feel about it. Also you're not working from the same kind of colors, right? You kind of have your own sense of color. So now you kind of hit this crossroads where you're like, do I know how to develop these color and temperature shifts in my own, style better than the reference photo, or do I want to do a more faithful study of this person and get their characteristics, right? As far as drawing stuff, right? Like look how hard these kind of like squarish edges are on this nose. Look at this shape of the eye, how it comes out, up, over, and down. That's a very common eye shape, very, very common. You're gonna see that over and over and over again. Like you're kind of just hitting like, yeah, it's like pretty close. Yeah, it's something like this. It's an almond, right? And that's fine. If I blocked in a painting like this, I would be happy with it, and then kind of come back to it with a more refined eye, maybe a liner brush, maybe scrape, and then work really kind of sensitively and try to work out that drawing. That would be the next step, to look for those characteristic things to say like, hey, there are kind of these blocky hard edges here. Right, like we do get this shape that kind of comes down. Am I in a weird... Yeah, I'm in a weird layer mode. Up, over, and down. Right, we start to get more of that kind of individual character in there that like kind of spills down a little bit softer. All these values aren't... again, it's where you want to draw the line between your style and your study. If you want it to be accurate to the photo, accurate to this model, well, now you got a lot of value adjustment to do. So I would try to hit, a base that kind of is a little bit more accurate. If you want it to be in your own style, then that's great. It's hard for me to critique your style. But yeah, I would look for kind of those more characteristic shapes, those bigger ideas. Yeah, and like you're coming like a little bit red in the hair too, so it's kind of making the hair brown, which I think looks nice. But yeah, I don't have too much more to say. I'm gonna move on. Yeah, Liquify is like crack. I really think it is. I really don't know how to feel about it. How do I feel about Riley rhythms? There's rhythms through the whole body. I just don't like leading first with things. It's like the Loomis method's awesome. But Loomis says in the book, don't do every drawing the same way because you'll lose the character of the person. Drawings are not factory things that come off a factory assembly line is what he says. But everyone just hears the Loomis method and then they do the Loomis method, right? And it's the same problem, I think, with the Riley rhythms. The Riley rhythms, to my understanding, were handouts that were given to upper level students from Riley's classes. Riley never those are passed down from his students. Riley never, I don't think, wrote a book on those specifically, or any books maybe. So I don't like that, like the whole, and I did Watts for a year. I did a year pretty much just training with Watts Online. And I just don't like guiding everything from the Riley rhythms. The rhythms are just anatomical flow that you see through the body, and you should always be looking for that stuff. But leading, with it just doesn't feel right to me. I hate that the easiest way to avoid liquefy is spending more time in the drawing stage. Learned that lesson the hard way. Yeah. And I look at somebody like Ramon is, never used liquefy or any drawing tools. Like he only like round brushes it. And he's just so good, like he can just nail the big proportions of the face in the simplest, easiest way possible. And, you see all the great 19th century portrait painters, and it's like, if they could do it without liquefy, then like if I lean on this crutch too much too early, like how much am I hurting myself from being able to see kind of bigger value or bigger shapes, bigger, form ideas, bigger rhythms and flows. Like if I'm always kind of leaning on that, that's kind of a problem. It might cause problems in the future, right? And I think that we have just issues in general right now. I don't know how to think about leaning on AI tools, right? Obviously I'm not using any image generation, but like it's pretty easy if you use like, ChatGPT can be helpful for like some things, translating stuff or searching some stuff in certain ways. It's pretty easy if you go to a question if you go to ChatGPT with a question a few times and it helps you out and it gives you a nice easy answer that Google, sucks nowadays. It wouldn't give you in such a simple way. It's pretty easy to always, right away you start to catch yourself thinking like, first thing on any question, you just go to ChatGPT. And then all of a sudden you don't notice when it's lying to you, right? It starts to steal away that bit of thinking, critical thinking from yourself. And I think that the liquefy is like the same exact thing where it's like, I'm just making a few adjustments. I see the mistake. So like I'm fixing it. That's not a problem, right? Like I saw the mistake myself, so I'm just going to liquefy it and fix it. It's like, yeah, it gives you that quick fix, but how much are you like losing that initial correctness from yourself every time? Liquefy is a tool that allows you to just kind of like shape stuff around however you want. You can move the whole image. You can kind of just drag an eye up or down or whatever, push and pull on stuff without kind of messing everything up. And I don't know, guys. I don't know what the right answer to using AI tools is. I don't know what the right answer to any of that stuff is, right? This is a Canvas Engineer. Canvas Engineer is really good. Dude, I really like your art. And I think you've got a kind of characteristic interest and taste in art that I think is cool to see. So I think you're probably better at most stuff than I am. So I don't know too much here. I kind of like how you've approached this stuff. If I didn't know your art, I'd probably approach this in a different way. But I kind of know... the stuff that you do, and I know what you're capable of. So I'll give you what I would say to somebody normally though. Just reading chat. Okay. Yeah, I think this is like a nice kind of first layer. Like if you just sit down and like throw this down, this is great. Like especially if this was oil paint or whatever, and you just sit down and kind of scrub in this stuff like thin, not with any thinner, but you just kind of like scrub it into the canvas and get like the local color on there. That's great. Personally, especially if it were oil paint or whatever, I would look for the immediacy of dark values, right? I think there's no, unless you want to do some sort of muted color range, I would, you know, find those areas that are black and just touch them in. I think that does, otherwise you're just going to be kind of fighting the uphill battle on this stuff. Maybe this, you know, isn't all dark. So I would try to find that stuff. You know, there's a lot of 19th century paintings too, where like they're unfinished, you know, kind of academic work. And you'll see, like, even without the structure of the eye, you'll just see like kind of two black dots where the eyes go. And I think that's like a nice habit, or it's just like a nice way to do it. There's some shape stuff that I would look for. Well, there's some areas too, right, where like there's probably just too much halftone creep in here, too much like color creep. I just like don't think it's that important. And it doesn't like really relate that much to the structure. Kind of the same thing over here where like this area is like kind of reddish and gray. Darker too. The whole thing's kind of muted, so if I make anything the true value that it is, you know, that's me. I'm always going to go for like the true value that things are. A lot of you guys, you know, with the stylized, the past few people that are stylized, I might not have that true color. You might not want that true color, I mean. What's up, Tim? Yeah, you called me bald, and then I freaking roasted you in chat, bro. You got roasted. How you doing, Tim? I saw your message the other. It was very nice. In the Discord. Yeah, especially this neck. Actually, you know, like I said earlier, this neck was the thing that I was the most happy with. This whole torso. I feel like I really got a nice level of like, you know, black here, mid-tone, you know, or, you know, pretty much just black fading out. And then you get like a really nice saturated red halftone at the edge of the shadow. And then this is just like, you know, the general tone for all of our neck here. You get like mostly hard edges, but occasionally you can kind of just hit it with the smudge, which is the smudge tool. Just occasionally hit it with like a little bit of smudge, soften it up. You get a little bit of highlight, but it's more of that grayish, purplish highlight that you get on the neck, right? Same thing with the chest. So I'd just be looking to group some of that stuff a little bit more. Right, probably go like a little bit more. I had to turn my whole thing more red and orange. I was a little bit too cool, and that's just kind of my tendency in painting. In all my digital paintings, I go, it was a little bit too cool. So I don't know if you have that issue too, but some of this stuff feels a little bit cool, especially like right around the edge of that shadow too. You get like a lot of saturation. Push some saturation, yeah, right in here too. Yeah, so I just would look for some of like that more immediate effect. You know, otherwise I think structurally it's very capable. Capture stare, yeah, thank you. I wish I worked on that more. You know, there's only so much time for everything. What did I just turn off? Did I just... Alright, I looked at you. Okay, cool. Moving on. You're a hard edge dude. You're too soft. So you need more hard edges. We need to harden you up, basically. We need to get you hard. Well, actually, you have like a nice hard edge here. This is like a nice plane. Yeah, so maybe you just need to kind of search for like, okay, now I need like a more accurate color in here. You know, one area that like, it is a reasonably hard edge. Well, like right here, I would just kind of like block it out a little bit more. Don't be afraid to like find that halftone, red, dark, shift it a little bit red, darker, more saturated. Maybe not so dark. Maybe not so red or so saturated. Be like, okay, this is my chin. There's gonna be a hard, you know, separation between the chin and the under the chin, right? Same with like, oh, I'm looking at the wrong photo. God damn it, sorry. This is softer. What do I need to do? Yeah, okay. So like you do get like 1, 2, 3 values here. But I would put them in a little bit harder instead of just trying to like airbrush out the shadow. Because there is kind of like a temperature change, right? Like this is very red and saturated. This is like a little bit more like the orangey brown area. So you lose a little bit of saturation, shift towards orange a little bit, right? So we're pretty orangey here. So I'm just going to lose a little bit of saturation, warm it up a little bit, or lighten it up a little bit. Yeah, we're kind of there. Right? Maybe lose a little bit more saturation. And then if you want to take a smudge brush or airbrush and just like hit, leave some hard edges, like right here, very, very hard. And then you get a little bit of softness in here with the roundness of the face. But then like you're back to like kind of harder accents right in here, right? And then same thing with this, right? Like you get this pretty strong kind of triangle shape in here. It's going to be a little bit darker, a little bit less saturated maybe. Right, and then like, then you can, be a little bit more selective, find where you want to soften up. The problem is I'm not on your layer. Otherwise, the values and stuff look pretty good. There's some drawing kind of shape stuff I would pay attention to. Like we kind of have this angle between the eyes, which I think it's all right. We can widen up this nose. Definitely feels a little bit too thin, and this feels like a little bit too jammed in there, right? Like let's give everything a little bit more space. Maybe the nose can be a little bit longer too. When I look at this shape here, I'm just feeling like we're a little bit short here. I think it's nice to kind of just listen to yourself on those feelings. Like you have to go through the stage where you measure the hell out of everything, but you also have to kind of wind back from that sometimes and just listen to yourself and be like, this feels wrong. It feels a little bit too long, and kind of like ask yourself where those feelings are coming from and if you should listen to them. Search for some angles around the sides here. And maybe round this off a little bit more. Maybe this feels a little bit too long. Yeah, you're pretty close. This is the top, right? Like side plane of the face, top of the cheekbone across here. So like, let this get a little bit brighter. Gonna be too strong. It's okay. All right, same with the top of the nose too. Don't be afraid of kind of finding your contrast where it needs to be. Your airbrushing isn't as egregious as I thought it was. It's not bad, actually. Just kind of like strengthening up, looking kind of for that next level of blocks of color. And like this highlight, it's kind of like one big square, right? You can just do that. A little bit too in the weeds. It's so nice kind of drawing over other people's work, because I'm the guy getting in the weeds when I'm painting. But when I'm drawing over other people's work, I don't even got to zoom in, So sick. Right, and then like get a little bit of action in here. Maybe not too much, right? And maybe that's where I'd use like a texture brush or something too. Sweet, very good, very good, very good. This is like interesting modeling. Webcam broken. What the heck happened to my webcam? I'm losing all my viewers. What? Camera was off. The web came and the web went. Very good. I gotta move faster because I'm getting tired. Yeah, kind of fighting a little bit too hard, right? Same thing as these other guys, but you're kind of fighting for everything, right? Like just let stuff be planes and let shapes be shapes, and also let yourself have darks, right? There's dark areas on the face, like those defining shapes of your shadows that create contrast. If it's black, put it down as black, bro. Don't be afraid of black. Right? Like I'm working like freaking Lightning McQueen right now. And it's gonna improve it. All right, there's a nose under the shadow under the nose. Boop, 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 boop. Black. Boop, bloop, bloop, bloop. Very good. Now you have a whole lot more structure. Oh, I did on the layer, dude. It would have been a crazy reveal. Next. This wasn't Jacob's, was it? It looks so much like Jacob. Yeah, that's funny. It looks exactly like Jacob's, which is a good thing. Cool. Yeah, there's some drawing stuff. You know, pay attention to the direction of your planes, right? This plane is sloping back slightly. This one too, right? It's the forehead. These are, you know, try to bring your brush strokes in the direction of the plane, right? You can go along the direction or across, and go across here, and then we have that extra plane on top, right? And then, you know, maybe look at the shape too to close it in a little bit. Pay attention to like your alignment of stuff. It's kind of extra time on that drawing stage, right? Where you have, like the right eye is kind of drooping a little bit lower than the left stage. I'd say your values and your colors and stuff are looking pretty good. Go back to the tip I gave somebody about 47 minutes ago about fan brushing, pulling one edge into another. I think that would help you out a lot. But like in general, like the big colors and stuff are pretty good. I think you need to increase your saturation pretty much across the board on every color for the most part. We're getting a little bit too, this is like a little bit too much of like a light, like a white person skin tone, like kind of a fairer skin tone right here. Whereas like on our model, when the light hits it, it does get light, but it's much more saturated. And it's kind of more of that like richer, maybe like cocoa reddish color, right? Where like we're letting the white hit it, and we're just getting a little bit too white. So it could be darker, more saturated, slightly more red. You know, that might be your light on a dark skin tone, because, you know, if you have a cube that is, if you have a sphere, right, and the sphere is has a local color of this, right? This is your average base color of a sphere, and then you have another sphere. And this sphere has a local color of this, right? A shadow on this sphere, it depends on the type of shadow. This is kind of a simplification, but shit. I was moving so quick. It depends on the type of the shadow, but in general, you know, a shadow on this skin tone might be something like this, right? Maybe a little bit more saturated. Whereas like a shadow, or we'll say this is the shadow, just so that we light on this skin tone or any material is maybe something more like this, right? It's the same amount of light hitting both. You know, maybe this would be darker. I'm oversimplifying this a lot. But if you hit a black cloth with light, the light on it isn't quite as bright as if you hit a white cloth with white, right? Like it's the same concept. Chloe says, hey. Hey. Kind of the same. What do we got going on here? Got some color jitter on a brush. We got a little bit of color jitter going on. It's cool. It looks cool. I like look at this like little seam that gets left on the side. That's kind of interesting. You would benefit from the advice I gave the last 10 people. Look at that. I'm growing. I'm moving. I'm changing as a person. I'm sorry that you got done dirty like that and everyone else didn't. Someone's got to get it. Yeah. Great work, Katie. A lot of stuff is working really well on this, and I think your colors are looking nice, as per usual. As per usual. It's per usual. I need my reference photos. I was looking for them. Boop. I have a favorite artist from the Baroque period. I'm not much of a Baroque guy. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe Rubens or something. I got skipped again. Is that the one guy? Is that the one guy? Are you in chat right now? Oh man, I just got. Yeah. I would I think you can kind of you know, crispen up some of these edges and like just let your transitions be a little bit more simple, right? So like why'd you say sorry? Sorry for bothering you. It's all good, fam. I'm just Bing chilling up in Beijing. All right, so like you can have, I like how you have like kind of this frayed edge here. But I just let it be like a little bit more simple. Like this is much more charismatic than kind of like the back and forth that you have on a lot of these edges, right? And then I just, you know, try to hit the saturation and the color. Like you're really in like the greens and yellows, where this this skin tone is much redder, much more rich, much more saturated, I think, in general. You know, stuff is pretty good. You know, just like some drawing stuff, you can probably like bump the nose over, probably bump this eye up a little bit and kind of look for those big shapes at the beginning. And then, you know, mask the hair into the blacks a little bit more. So it's solid though. Maybe is Van Dyke in the Baroque era? He's kind of around that time. Maybe he's after it. When is Baroque? It's been a while since I took art history. The 17th century, the first half of the 18th century. So it's all the 1600s and the first half of the 1700s. Van Dyke. Would you call Van Dyke Baroque? Oh, fuck. Anthony Van Dyke. 1599 to 1641. That's early Baroque, baby. Yeah, Anthony Van Dyke's goated. You helped me to see. I'm forever grateful for that. Let's freaking go. Art's all about seeing. It's about opening your eyes, seeing the world around you, appreciating the beauty of life and the beauty of my beautiful fans. Fuck, I switched the wrong scene. Cool. Yeah, I hate to do it to you, Katie. It's the same thing I've said to every other person. The theme of the day. Fuck, I froze Photoshop. The theme of the day is get hard. That's the theme of the day. Just get freaking hard, you guys. You're soft. You're noodle dicking around all your paintings. There's a little bit more. It's like one too many transitions. Right? And then like you can take a smudge. I don't know what smudges are on Procreate. A little bit more red. A little bit more saturated, a little bit darker. Go back to the hard round. All right. Boom. 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 All right, you got like this nice, this is a nice tone right here. Boom. A little bit more red here. Okay, beautiful. Take our smudge brush, or you can do this with an airbrush or whatever. Just gotta be careful not to introduce too many tones. I don't even want to do it too much. All right, where's our dark? Maybe like this can be kind of like grouped together a little bit more. Wait, let me use the layer mode. Let me use darken. There we go. That's probably the right value. That looks good. I like this. And then like, this is the top of the cheekbone. It's probably a little bit too light. Make it a little bit more red, a little bit more saturated. Maybe a little bit too dark, or too light still. This is like the top of our cheekbone here. A little more orange in some of these areas. Right, and then it gets darker here. What I'm gonna do is just kind of airbrush this in on the side. Wait, how am I on darken making that darker? That's pure black. Is it because I'm not in the layer? Oh, I think it's because I'm not in the layer. Yeah, there we go. Right, like define the side of the cheekbone a little bit more. Show that there's like, look at this. You get this like nice kind of swoop of light that rings around the top of the cheekbone here. Maybe a texture brush here. Boom, and then like a little bit of a, I like that brush stroke actually. Maybe like just hit it with like a little bit of smudge. Oh, this is nice. That's nice. And it's probably like the edge of the cheekbone actually isn't that round normally. You can see how straight of a line there is here. So I just find a spot just to square off just a little bit. Help give a little bit more structure. There we go. Oh, I popped off so hard. That's sick. That goes hard. And then there's probably like a few dark accents that I'd stick in here. This top lip is great. This is nice. I know this is, I have this like lower res. And I wouldn't be scared of just some dark accents. It's just like charcoal, right? Like you put in your general darks and then like you just slap some freaking dark accents in there and let them do all the work for you. Probably a little bit too much here. I know there's more detail in there, but you know, it is what it is. Just helping you edge, sis. All right, great work. Love it. This was Mr. Toko's. It's looking very nice. Looking very nice. So it's one other of you submitted a painting that was not the reference provided and it didn't have the reference in it, and so I skipped it. Toko, I love the I don't even have too much to say to you. I love the color temperature variety in here. This is actually really cool and really nice. Something you should keep chasing. The risk of chasing like all the color temperature changes is that you normally like are always going to lose the value. I think you actually held the value together pretty darn well, which is nice. It's really nice. And the fan brushing going on, if I blow this back up, do I get the original detail? Oh, now Katie's gonna be mad because I'm gonna grab the original because I want to look at the detail. Katie's seething in chat right now. Here we go. This is a really nice use of the fan brush. I'm hiding her heart too. You're all getting hidden. I'll put you guys over here. Do an oil painting, get the high res treatment. So true, so true. Well, I don't know if it was a stylistic choice or that's the hairdo you wanted or something, but I really like how by the way, this hair, oh, nope, you go back. Okay, fuck you. I really like how the hair in the original reference photo kind of like frames the face. What's this? Where did that come from? Was that always there? I really like, I'll start this sentence for the 4th time. And I'll add a new layer too. I really like how this frames the face and gives us like shape in the original reference here. What am I doing here? I just think that's really interesting. But I respect if you wanted to do the just like a pull back hairstyle. I think you handled it just fine. So I think one area. Yeah, I think, okay, so it's going to be some small stuff because I think you did a really nice job on this. Because you're chasing down so many tones, I think you just want to be really sure that like your areas of light are like super unified. I would go back earlier to when we looked at that German guy to see how like he kind of like fan brushes stuff together. Yeah, got the tone right here. And look at that kind of like 19th century level of simplicity. I mean, they do this super color accurate thing sometimes. It just depends on who you're looking at. But where you can find like kind of some big groups of light and dark, that you can unify stuff together, I think it's always going to be really, really, really important for maintaining kind of like the unity of the image, right? You get like those areas that are super high detail, and you can kind of think, one thing I've been thinking about too is like, where do you want like your focal point to be? Right, like what's like the big gesture and expression of the image? What's the purpose of it? Like, you know, probably, oh shit, I pulled the window out. All right. Make sure it's looking good. Yeah, okay. So like, this is like kind of this big movement through the image like this. By the way, this reference photo is from a guy named Howard Lyon. It's one of the sample images. So that's funny. But Howard makes really good reference photos too. They're a little bit more expensive than Liston's, but they're really, really high quality, and I use them and I like them. So I just want to shout out the people that give good references here. You get this kind of this movement through the figure, and I think there's like a few shapes here that help sell that. Where's the brush? Everything ever, yeah. Right, like this kind of more arcing motion outwards kind of helps that. You get kind of like this brushing eye out a little bit. This looks pretty good. Be a little bit careful about light there, and then yeah, this is nice. You know, this photo isn't going to be super color accurate to what you have, so it's challenging. Pretty very red and saturated here for this kind of warm shadow. You know, just a drawing thing, probably looking to kind of bring this out maybe a little bit more on the side here. If I Control J, and then I take this, and I just, oh, fuck, I'm on the wrong layer. Yeah, and then I kind of I give a little bit more detail to where the chin is, because I think we're losing like a little bit of the context of that. All right, this is where that reflected light is really important. You know, I'd be careful about overusing black in your shadows. It does unify them together, but there's a lot of saturation in the shadows of people with darker skin tones. And if you use too much black, I think it just doesn't represent their skin tone enough. And I think you're on the edge here. It's maybe a little bit too much black. Especially when like you have a lot of the color accuracy going on in the lights. This probably needs to get a little bit more gray. Darken. I'm changing layer modes like crazy so I don't mess up too much of the original painting. Probably here we're like pulling a little bit too much saturation. Like this is like a really nice kind of like cool green, warm olive tone. I think that's really, really good. Probably want to get like a little bit more kind of jaw on here too. I feel like her face is like boxy, and you get this, you know, strong cheekbone pointed out. And you have that. I would kind of maybe push the angle on this a little bit more, even if you have to kind of move the hair or redesign the hair a little bit just to show that better in your painting. Oh, that's a little bit too much. I'm gonna erase some stuff and then put it down in the exact same way you had it. And then that kind of same level of like unity in the lights. Let me get this like a little bit more red. You can probably stretch across to the lips too. Right, you get that light that spills across, a little bit more unified. Get this more red area over here. Yeah, and then like you're kind of using black in here. I would use it maybe at like the corners of the mouth where you get those super dark crevices. But then otherwise I would just throw a shit ton of pigment into your darks for a lot of these areas. Because also you're getting like subsurface scattering, right? That's where the light is, you know, bouncing in and under the skin and bouncing a lot, you know, in the semi-transparent areas around the lips and the ears and even in the skin too. The light bounces into the skin, you know, like holding a flashlight to your hand, and it warms up, it gets really bright. So especially around the edges of the shadows and areas of skin and, you know, especially in the lips and ears, you're going to get like a ton of saturation right around the edge of the shadows. That's pretty much always happens. So I'd look for that. And you do have it. But I think you can control it a little bit more, organize it a little bit more. Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. You know, but like always keep all this stuff in mind with like where you want like the focus of the painting to move through. Like how do you want the viewer's eyes to move through the painting, right? Like you can finish everything perfectly. But I think, you know, if you have that mindset, like the riskiness of that is that you kind of focus too much on every little change. And things just get a little bit over-explained. A little bit too light. All right, and then you can use that super saturated red in the ears too. That's, you know, that's what I said. You get those really strong saturated bits in the ears. I don't know why it keeps going back here. If you posted after the stream started, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. What? Wait, should I not show that phone number? It's not... I'm getting a call from Google. It doesn't have my phone number on the screen. No. Okay, so that's not my phone number. It's Google's phone number. That must be like a scam, right? And they're like spoofing their ID. They'll leave a message. Google. Hello, we found your car at the border. It has drugs in it. We need you to pay the fines. Who do we got left? We got 3 left. All this pose. Google wants to add you to the top of the results. The top of the results when you search art. Yeah, when you search art, it just shows up Jake Don't Draw. That would be huge. We need that. Am I going to be last again? Yes. Yes. This is really nice. There's like some nice characteristic stuff going on in here. I think you've kind of just cooked the edges a little bit too much, right? So basically the same issue as pretty much everybody else. It's just like a lot of areas where there doesn't need to be 5 transitions for everything, right? Like basically like we have this and then 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 this, right? Do we need to use 7 transitions to describe this? No, we probably need like 1, 2, 3. All right. And then like you just like if you really want to, you can like hit an airbrush or texture brush on the edge of that, right? And that like that kind of hurts us everywhere, especially. I'm looking at the wrong photo again. My apologies. Same advice applies. I'd actually say 1, 2, maybe 3 on the edge, right? And then that's mine. You know, same like right in here, right? Like we have these big, like these are shadows, especially our cast shadows, tell us exactly what's going on above them. It tells us the direction of the light. They're incredibly important. And they have hard edges. Like cast shadows normally have hard edges, or at least them having a hard edge informs us that it's a strong light that's somewhat nearby, right? So we need to have crisper edges on that. Boom, 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 right? We're very milky through here when it should just be, I'll do it on top. It should just be, you know, I'll use darken. Oh, I am on darken. Holy shit, I'm pro. Right, and then like, you know, I can tell that you're scared of black, right? Or you're like, okay, this is black, but I can't have black. Black's not. You're not supposed to use black in art. I'll make it like 7 out of 100 instead. But use black. There's black all over the place in real life and in photos and in everything. So just use black. I don't clean my brushes mid painting. If I'm using a different brush. The question was, Jake, can I clean my brushes with linseed oil mid painting like turpentine? Well, the answer is yes. Like occasionally I want to use the same brush for you know, a different value group. I just use like 7 brushes in my hand and I just have different color and value groups assigned to each one, right? And then all you need to do is just wipe it off in between and you're fine. You don't need spirits or anything. But if you must, sometimes occasionally I do want to use a brush for something else. I will just dip it in linseed oil and kind of just swish it around a little bit and then just thoroughly wipe it onto a rag. Yeah, you can do that. But typically, that's pretty rare that I do that. Jacob, this is really, really good. Probably one of your better ones yet. I love the background. Some nice stuff in here. Very Constantine, I feel like. I also just think like the application of the paint's really nice. It feels very thick, but it feels like it's sunken into the surface a little bit. This is maybe a board or paper that you gessoed. It feels like it's absorbing some of the paint. And it might not be. That might just be the way that I'm looking at it. But I'm not sure, you know, if this stuff is drying really, really quickly, then yeah. That might be a problem. Your surface might be too absorbent. Might need another layer of gesso. Maybe your gesso is too absorbent. I'm not sure. But that might be an issue. I'm going to tell you the exact same thing I've told the last 20 people. You've overcooked some of your edges here. Also, we just want to remember our relative value contrast, right? Is this as bright as our highlight up here? No. I mean, it's actually reasonably close. Is it as bright as our brightest lights on our lips or maybe our eyes or, you know, like this is probably our brightest area in here? No. So why did you make it that? You know, same thing, right? Where like, look how dark this is, right? And then look how, you know, it's pretty close to here. It's also much, much more saturated. So you kind of always are like, lacking saturation a little bit. I tell you that every time. I don't know what it is. I have to watch you paint in order to know what's causing that. Right. I push this stuff. Push it. Here we're getting a little bit just too fair skinned, I think. We can push it more red. Keep it gray. And then it just doesn't need to be quite so bright. You know, again, that's another thing you'll get from comparing stuff. But the problem is if you put this, you know, lights down first, then you might have been comparing it based on stuff that you put down kind of a little bit too inaccurately. And that's why it's important to mask things in kind of in their approximate value without, you know, their internal changes early on. Right. I didn't even realize we were listening to lo-fi until like 20 minutes ago. I never listened to lo-fi, but damn, if I'm relaxed right now, dude. Yeah, some of these edges, I think they're just like a little bit too indecisive. You know, just drop it down, and then if you want to transition out of it, then transition out of it, right? And then take the fan brush and pull it out if you want to, right? But some of this stuff is just like a little bit too, no, I'm here. It just kind of, it doesn't feel very committal. And then I would just kind of be careful with just, again, like your big value contrast for the whole thing, right? All this stuff is dark. Much better. Feels much more like her skin tone, right? When you do that. Same thing over here. Same thing. Right, so be careful. Darker skin tones, more saturated, and their general halftone's going to be darker too, and they get like very gray. I mean, everybody gets gray in their halftones, especially around the shadows. It's very, very normal. But watch your value contrasts. Check what's the lightest thing. Where's the lightest point on this, and where's the darkest point on this? Well, there's lots of pure black on this. Where's the lightest point on this? It's probably the highlight on the lips. Now, everything needs to be keyed against that. Right from the start, you decide that. Now, everything needs to be keyed against this. I want to put this light in. It's a highlight. I'm going to reach for white. Well, let me compare it to my whitest point. Oh, I compare it back to this point? Oh, it's actually like mid-gray. Okay, now I make the right one. I'm going to put this in. It's a highlight. I'm going to put it in as white. Well, I guess before I do that, I'll check it against my brightest white, right? Yeah, localized. So like it's just something that has to happen. Yeah, the colors might be a little smushed. But it's relative stuff too. Cool. Good job. Very good, very good. Vam the man. Yeah, same shit, different day. Love. Look at the edges down here. Maybe one too many, but look at the edges down here. They're like pretty well defined. Not too many. They're kind of blending in the right areas. And when they're blending, they're kind of still staying within their groups. They're not getting too crazy. Like this is nice, right? Like this is nice right here. Everyone lost a little bit of that in the forehead, right? It's just too tempting. It's too tempting. All right, give a little bit of strength to it, a little bit of structure. I like how you took it blue. I like, this is tasteful color choice. Did a nice job. The front plane of the forehead, it catches light, and then the top of the forehead, it gets a little bit darker, right? Just because it's starting to slope back. And it's going to be maybe a little bit more gray, maybe a little warm. You're making your own color choices here. Probably better at making those color choices than I am. I'm not very good at that stuff, so. There's some shape language stuff here that I think it's reasonably easy to spot too. Like this forehead just feels like a little tall. Kind of take that in a bit too. Check your alignment on stuff, right? Very clear vertical on our reference. This is just feeling a little bit too slanted to the side, so. It's much better. Maybe like kind of open up the eye a little bit more too and work on the expression. Yeah, I'd look for some of these planes a little bit more, be a little bit more confident blocking this stuff out. Yeah, there is kind of like just another pass on likeness. I don't know when you should do it, if you want to liquefy it or if you want to do it in the drawing stage. I don't know, I already talked about that. But like, we're probably a little bit long on the middle third, and that's kind of flattening out the perspective, because if we shorten that and we raise the bridge of the nose just a little bit, then what's going to happen is that's going to feel like we're looking up at our nose more, right? Same with like the lower third too. Just when we kind of take a step back and we look, Ideally, before you're at the stage, in a drawing stage, you're able to kind of recognize, take a step back, don't move too quickly, look for those things, and make those decisions. Color choices are pretty good. There's not too much murkiness. This is really nice. There's a nice amount of planes going on in here. The hair highlights are tastefully done. I think that's fine. I would probably try to like chunk this stuff together a little bit more, because you have like a lot of like this shape, like everything's kind of the same. Like I think I would probably try to, and I'm not super good at this, so my highlight. Yeah, probably try to bring this into like a bigger movement, right? And then like work the details into it, just so that we don't have too many brush strokes that are like all the same size and width and stuff, right? Kind of like coupling stuff together a little bit more. Yeah, put this on darken. Like the background, did a really nice abstraction of that. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I got for everybody here. The theme of the day: get it hard. And don't stop getting it hard. Just too many pussyfooting around values. There's too much being scared of putting down, a value that's pure black. Being scared of putting down a cast shadow that has hard edges. Being scared of putting a plane down and just having it be a plane. There's just as much importance as that as there is in soft edges, if not more, to be honest. Because I said this at the very beginning. If you make everything too soft, I think you pretty much just lose everything. Make everything a little bit too hard, it's maybe a little bit mechanical looking, but you'll still kind of have like a nice stylized, or hopefully nice stylized looking piece, right? And at least with digital, it's pretty easy to make those softening, and even in oil paint, like I showed earlier, just take the fan brush and flick it over, right? That's all you need. Very deep, very hard. That's what we need. Yeah, great job, everybody. I do really love seeing these. It's so much fun to do, and people are making great progress and just putting in the time and the work just to do something for themselves. It's a beautiful thing. You all are beautiful people. Thank you for being here to this stream. I had lots of fun. Wait, we'll look at Catters just because you weren't even here, Catter, at the beginning of the stream. I gave you a shout out. I'm not going to admit it twice, though. I'm not going to do it in front of you. The left is the current state. Do you want me to do the left or not? No, you're not. You're potluckins in me, man. This is my work in progress, and this is the finished version, and this is version 2.3. This is open source version right now. You're potluckins me, bro. You gotta give me just one, dude. I don't know what to do with all this information. Well, this is the main branch, but then we have this off branch that we're working on right now through another developer. Freaking CS majors, bro. Yeah, I don't know what's better than mine, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it's better than mine. I shouldn't have pulled it up on stream, man. I shouldn't have given it to you. Freaking CS majors. Yeah, I think that the only thing that yeah, this is really nice. It's really nice edge work. Great edging. You know when to get it hard and when to keep it soft. That's really important. Yeah, I think the only thing just to be worried about and that I'd recommend for you to look at is just like a lot of 19th century portraiture, because those guys just know how to keep it really simple and where to lay down a big patch of value and then just like very easily pull an edge. Like it's worth studying that stuff. Just the only thing like I think you can run into with like the over airbrushing is just it's exactly that, over airbrushing, or just too many changes, too many soft changes where there doesn't need to be. Sometimes there's like plane changes. There's kind of a harder plane change in many of these areas, but it's really good. So I don't. It's not something I don't like to give critique that I couldn't execute myself, which I might be able to help a little bit, but I don't know. Apologies to the people who went late. Am I edging too mushy? I don't think it's too mushy, but I think it's something that you got to be careful. I think you got to be careful of it. I think I'm too mushy. Wait, that's the same file. I got too mushy. Mine's overworked. There's just not the right contrast of softness to hardness, or that like you have a better version of that. This is nice, dude. I fucking popped off right here. Makes me feel good. I was just kind of working on learning too many things at the same time. Yeah, your color's better than mine too. I'm like a little bit too green right here. You managed to balance that out with the coolness. Yeah, cool. Let me think here. Run a few games of Dress to Impress. Just kidding. That game's for girls. Woo! Got him. This guy can nail a clavicle. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, dog. It's all about hitting the clavies. This session, guys, we are working on drawing horses. So if you want to practice, well, everyone in the Discord is a girl. It's assigned girl, assigned female in Discord, a fid. We're drawing horses in the Discord. If you want to learn how to draw horses for the next week, we're drawing horses. And it's not like a super hardcore challenge prompt with one reference. You just practice and you sketch and you talk about drawing horses. They're very fun to draw. They're very difficult to draw. It's a good time. So if you want to learn to do that, there's a lot of resources and books linked in the Discord. The link is in the description. If you're not in there already, then you're not a girl. The challenge after this, I have not decided. I think I need a figure. I probably need a full figure. It's been, I think, a little while since a figure, so I don't know if I want to do a cast or a photo. I'm kind of leaning towards photo, but I should paint that horse comp sketch I did a year ago. Horses are super fun animals. Yeah, true. It's the Zhonghua brush. Great work, everybody. I'm kind of just sitting here and just chilling. The views are going up for some reason. I'm not sure there's any. What time is it? Oh my god, it's 6 o'clock. Yeah, I want to eat food. I'm hungry. Beautiful. That was the Jake Don't Draw. They can't cancel me tour. They tried to cancel me. They couldn't cancel me. The woke mob won't cancel me. I missed the stop stream button. I can't see it. It's behind my camera.